Diesel W. Hopefully, everything's coming all on through all right? I don't know. I've not done a YouTube stream before, so excuse me. Pardon my dust, as they say. Let's see. I'm checking. Oh, there's a little delay there. Hopefully, everything's coming all on through all right? I don't know. All right. I just wanted to make sure. How's life, broski? You know, it's all right. It's all right. I didn't expect a streaming channel to do so well lately, so that was weird. You might see some regulars from Twitch pop on by, because I mainly do it there. But I was recommended to try out YouTube, so you know, we're doing it here. I don't even know if I have stuff like fuck. I could have sworn I had all that super chats and shit set up. If not, oh well. I was setting up members and all that for people to try out all that stuff and I'll have all that fun stuff. Oh, I forgot to press the turn on button. I'm an idiot. This is my first stream. Tune in more often. We'll definitely be doing some here on YouTube. But yeah, I just well now memberships are on. I just did that. It just happened in the last 5 seconds. But we're gonna shout this out to my Discord server before getting started this evening. Wait, I forgot to fucking add everybody on Discord. Whoopsie. I'm an idiot. There we go. Then I will send and ping everyone. Speaking of, guys, if you want to get involved with the community, we do have a Discord server, and it is very based, and you should all stop on by. If you enjoy the YouTube content, the people there are actually very nice. It's a good vibe, honestly. So I'm enjoying it. Ew, smelly. Ew, Rinny. I did a Fortnite stream on Twitch with Rinny yesterday. We got some dubs. Lovely Lemon Ice, welcome. Not gonna lie, I thought this was gonna be on Twitch. I got so confused when YouTube popped up. You know, I wanted to try out YouTube for a couple of reasons. Mainly because I just wanted to see who would show up. Which will be sick. I'm hoping the search is a little better for this, but we've been doing so many drama streams, I might as well, right? But if you're stopping on by, make sure to like the stream if you haven't. Why not? True, we did get dubs. That's true. Lamau, second channel. Is that D-Core? Actually there. Hello. That can't be the same core, is it? Disliked. All right, now I know that everybody from the gaming group is here. YouTube Live, this is different. Well, you know what? You only live once, Travis. All right? But, hello. Just hopped into Discord. Looked fun. Yeah, we're actually pretty active. We pin that. There we go. Mwahahahaha. We're just gonna wait for some peeps to trickle in. You don't look straight. Well, do I have some news for you? I am straight. I like breast and vagina. So. Music's super loud, by the way. Hold on. Yeah, it is loud. It's loud in my ears, too. I just want to download Sexy Curvy Girls for Darkest Dungeon. Steam Workshop. Why dost thou deny me of sin? I'm trying to troubleshoot. Oh my god. I'm used to watching you on Twitch, but I haven't been able to catch you for the last few months. Corey from Trailer Park Boys. Shocking revelations here on FPS Diesel live streams. Diesel likes women, broads, titties. Crazy. Thank you, Slaw, for the sub. I appreciate it, gamer. But we know why we're all here this fine evening, right? We know why we're all here. What's going on, right? All that fun stuff. We got a bit of Illuminati drama. Chat. Oh, and goblins. Yeah, but like female goblins, okay? Like it's not male goblins. I'm dwarf pilled. I mean, like a fantasy dwarf. I'm sorry to the little people out in my audience. Natty the Panda is really struggling with what's happening with the the disaster that is the Darkest Dungeon. Oh man. All right, so let me preface this stream before we get into it, right? We got a lot of related information to cover. And I'm gonna go crazy. Yeah, I'm short stack pilled. But, you know, that's just super based. Okay, but describe short so I can know whether or not to fight you. Shorter than me. So you are shorter than me, and I would win in a fight. Technically speaking, Rennie. There we go. But we got an interesting one. My brother has the industrial-sized tub of Cool Whip in the background for comfort in these trying times. That is not Cool Whip in the background. So for clarification, what that is damp rid, right? I am trying to keep my basement from becoming too humid. So, you know, I use that to keep the humidity down. Because it gets really damp in a basement, you know, because I live in a basement. But yeah, it's the simple things, you know. It's the simple things. Second on my hit list, got it. I'm building up a hit list of people to maim and murder based on height. We we wouldn't have judged you if it was, though. But I'm just warming up, chat. Okay, it's a little late. I'm still in like gym clothes because I've just it's hot out. I gotta limber up as we get into the tea this evening. But we got a toasty set of tea. So if you guys haven't known, I've been covering Illuminati on the channel. Some of you might be at the second channel because of the Illuminati stuff. But basically what happened is that Illuminati, all of her skeletons came out of her closet at once, right? So everybody decided to dog on her. And most importantly, the people close to her had some serious grievances that they wanted to communicate towards you. As such, people like the Click and now Wonderstruck have come forward with information regarding Illuminati. Some of this stuff I was aware of before because YouTubers talk, right? But now we're here where all this chaos has occurred. And the kombucha that I drank is like coming up on me. But basically, what's happened now is that Illuminati is trying to astroturf, or I don't know if I'd use, came for this teacher scat fetish video you showed us all. Right? So I completely lost my train of thought from the scat fetish video thing. Okay. So Illuminati's trying to astroturf, right? Her BS that's happening to her by producing more content to hide it. So before I show you Wonder's video, let's look at the response to all of that. Buy Mana Potion coffee so Diesel can get a dehumidifier. That's a great point, Eve. You should buy my coffee. I ship it all myself. So if you're interested, you can check it out. Use D10 at checkout. Use code D10 for 10% off your order at checkout. Go do that. It would be very based if you did. Here, D10 like that, like a dice roll. All right. That's what you want to do. Anyway. Eve, you're looking out for me. You know, that's what I like to see in my audience is homies who look out like that. That's very based of you. But yeah, that is like my big business push right now. Cause I don't make any money doing any of this stuff anymore. What happened at D20? That was for launch, Core. That was for launch. I can't physically like afford to do D20 on every single order. But yeah, it's fair trade, biodegradable packaging, certified organic, FDA certified organic. So we want to make sure that we're doing a good job for the environment. You know, waste not, want not, leave nothing behind. Those are big, important things for us. But yeah, I hate coffee, but like your artwork on the bags. Have you thought about making posters? So Travis, that's a great point. We are making posters. I have the posters. I don't have the boxes, which is why they are not up on the site yet. Because I don't want to like send you a poster and it gets ruined in the mail or something. Coffee looks great, but does it come with your basement sweat sealed inside? Well, I've already stated that if I reach 1 million subscribers, I will open an OnlyFans. So, if you want Gamer Boy sweat, get me to 1 million subs and I will oblige that offer. Does it have red 40? I can only drink things with red 40. Core. Core. I am gonna do all these things. The thing is, we manufacture it ourselves. We don't manufacture the coffee, but we did do the labels and stuff like that. And one of the hard things that I've put myself in is making dice. You can make dice in your garage right now, which is what we're doing. But having to make it at like scale volume is like insane, right? So we want to make sure that it's like good shit, holding you to that promise. Hey, you know what? If it happens, I'll do it. I'll helicopter my dick for the audience, okay? Based diesel. I'm shameless. I will do a buff orc guy cosplay for all the Bara lovers in my audience, which is a surprising amount of you are like gay dude. There's like one gay guy on Twitter who follows me, and he's like, Diesel, I wish you were gay because you're hot. And I'm like, I don't know you. That's weird. But okay. You make loaded dice. No, absolutely not. There's like a whole big list. My brother is doing that. He does a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. All right. Make custom D&D dice with coffee scent and drop them in the bags or something. All right. So here's the Illuminati exposed video, right? We're going to look at the like to dislike ratio on this. It's very funny. Right? So it's pretty bad right now, right? We got 53K dislikes, right? And we got 33K likes, and that's pretty bad considering she's a million sub YouTuber, right? But I can do you one better. She has constantly been producing content since that time to try and cover this part up, right? I should also mention her views are down. Everything's down across the board for her in terms of her stats, all right? So if you guys are making a difference, right? She has been in a rough spot. It's not like she's, hurting for money or anything, but it's constantly not doing well, right? Her audience has completely... Anybody got the extension for showing dislikes? I can actually pull that up for everybody right now. Free promo. These guys should if they did something, I would. There we go. But if you don't have it, that's where you can get it. Anyway, yeah. Whew. So she's got 8K dislikes on this most recent upload from a day ago. All right, that's pretty Illuminaughtii of her. Thank you, Moist Teeth. Based as always from you. All right, but all of the comments are dogging on her. Right? I love the irony that she's talking about and treating employees badly like she does. It's gross when any business thoughtlessly exploits its employees in this way, no matter who it is, right? Do people still dislike a video? Well, Travis, based on these statistics, yes. Most people who use YouTube have the dislike thing enabled. I use a custom YouTube player on my phone that returns dislikes. That is how useful the dislike feature has always been, Knowing that Blair doesn't even really write her own scripts anymore, I've got a feeling this might be a cry from help from her staff. This topic feels too ironic. I watched Wonder's video. You basically said a mentally unstable person with a gun in the house, he could have been shot or put into jail. You almost ruined his life. You're unforgivable. So it's bad. It's not looking good for her. It's a creep show art situation, and I have a video coming out soon on this. I haven't watched Wonder's video, right? But what we want to do today is watch Wonder's video so that way I understand what I'm writing for my script. So the quicker we get through this, the quicker I get my video out, the more everybody can clap and talk about how amazing I am. God gives his silliest of battles to the funniest of clowns, and the world is her circus. Man, she's really eating it. But yeah, so we're gonna go to the Wonder video, which is feature length in time. And guys, when I see a video that is feature length, I go one of two ways about it. I'm like, I wish I wasn't having to watch something so long. But then on the other token, you know, isn't she a very workers' rights person? Well, I learned through the course of this that not only is she claims to be a workers' rights person, but if you watch one of my stream highlights, I explain how her use of her funds is really strange for somebody who runs multiple businesses, right? So I explained that those things are weird in that video, but the gist of it is that the money is moved around very strangely, and I don't know why. That's just weird. And she's, very workers' rights, but there's a lot of like iffy things about that. Obviously, she's not like that in reality. She comes off as a neurotic, paranoid individual. And man, all the rights that she could give to workers in the world are not going to save her now, right?
Is wonder, as I'm sure many of you know by now. Whether you've known me in the past for my content or a friend or neither, you're probably here to watch and hear the other side of a story involving me and my former colleagues that came out this week. I won't try to show face or sugarcoat anything in this video, as that would honestly be a disservice to myself. As you can already tell, my eyes are very much drifting off the screen.
Okay, we're gonna skip this part. I had watched this, but basically he's just explaining the come up to where we are now, and what we want to get to is the stuff that hasn't been talked about.
And an image that was sent to me showing the living conditions of the house that she was subjecting my friend to.
Okay, so the clarification, we're talking about these pictures of the house in a couple seconds. So Blair allegedly may or may not live in like squalid, debaucherous, disgusting place, right? Like her home is a fucking mess. And she has a dog with pica. I believe that is another thing that's mentioned, at the end of this. And that it is not okay for a dog with pica to live in a place that has all these like dribbles laying around and all this gobbledygook on the floor, right? See, so the thing with Blair and her weird like workers' rights things, right? And we'll discuss this in my full video on it, but Blair has a past of being like really edgy, like against the like lefty SJW types, right? And whatever, that's what she was then. But her political opinions, in my opinion, from my perspective, kind of like Blair's political opinions are based on what's popular at the time, right? That is what it is. Blair does not strike me as a very educated woman. She is not a woman that has like concrete opinions on things. Her opinions are what's popular in the people that she's around. Does it really have pica, or is it not well trained? Apparently it has pica for real, right? Because Blair talks about raising a dog with like autism or something at some point. Or has discussed that at some point. I honestly, it's more likely that the dog isn't trained, but I like pick up after yourself. She girl boss too close to the sun.
Has mentioned on numerous times that she takes care of a special needs dog. I'll have the definition here on the screen, but essentially it's a disorder where a dog grows anxious at times and eats random objects. This is not a safe environment for a dog to live in. Before I speak further, I'd like to provide a trigger warning involving the topics of pedophilia and harm towards children. If you're not comfortable...
That's my warning to you, the audience. Thumbnail game on point. Thank you, Greg. Hold on. There we go. Hold on. Let me mod you, Greg. And I can't do it through here. Hold on. Blair's the kind of girl you meet at Warped Tour, hook up with, and then show up to her house and see piles of scientific anomalies around the house and make the drive far away. No, see, like, Blair is not a Warped Tour person though. You know, she's like, she's basic bitch, right? Diesel, do you think his nail polish is red or black? On Wonder? Let's find out.
You may click off or head to the timestamp provided on screen. I will not be going in depth on the allegations against Click. Click has made a very thorough video which you can find in the description below if you'd like to watch.
Yeah, basically, Click was accused of being a nonce harborer, right? And that wasn't true. It was baloney.
Proves these rather disgusting claims made towards him. But a personal question I would like to ask. If Blair had the information and documented evidence on a Discord server that, as she depicted, cultivated...
She def is a Warped Tour chick? I don't think she's a Warped Tour chick. She does not scream Warped Tour chick. You know what Blair comes off as, right? She comes off as like, maybe I liked 21 Pilots when they were like really popular, or something like that. But the deepest she goes is like maybe some Fall Out Boy, right? But she's more of like a Tay-Tay girl. You know, she's girl bossing, gatekeeping, gaslighting, but all that. You know, you're never gonna catch her at like Ice Nine Kills. She's never gonna be listening to like Issues. She's never been to like a gent show. She's never gone. She listened to him all the time. 20 Pilots ain't shit. Get out of here. I am telling you. Okay, so for reference, audience, Core, you knew Blair, right? You knew her in the past. We're getting off topic discussing what kind of person she is.
Files. And truly believe this, why did she wait 3 years to come forward? Why did she allow the Click on Sadmilk or play games with him in the free time? Why did she put a link for help for anyone affected by such actions of child grooming, yet didn't use her platform to speak up on a server and creator that is active to this day? If she were to argue a fear of retaliation, what is the reason? She makes content bringing light to the horrors of companies pretty much every week. Arguably, if she knew this was ongoing, knew the extent, and then said nothing, she would have arguably by proxy been responsible for any further victims in such a server. One more subject I'd like to touch base
on. Core's been around. Core's seen some fucking tea. All right, some serious drama.
On is the call that took place.
She listens to Panic at the Disco, but only after it was only Yuri left.
Between Blair, OT, and the Click, and a Reddit post that I made following their departure. I was indeed present for this call. This was a meeting designed to iron out the differences and tension in Sadmilk, as not only did our audience deserve it, but we as friends deserve it to ensure our friendship lasted. During this call, Blair began to become highly irritable and raise tensions where they did not need to be raised. I'd like to clarify that OT did not speak over her out of disrespect, but out of a minor Discord delay, to which she said, and I quote, "Shut the fuck up and let me talk for once." I remember it clearly. It was very nasty, and it was the first fatal blow to Sadmilk and the events that transpired and led up to today. OT, rightfully, left the call without a word at this point. Blick, however, tried to remain on the call and mitigate his intentions were for the betterment of the group, but Blair kept berating him. I have never heard Click, a very extroverted and talkative man, remain so quiet. I know I'm trying to read this off a script, but if I only had one way to describe this call, it was a very dark call. OT departed in the following days. After this, Click departed from Sadmilk as well. Audience members grew confused about this, so she took to Reddit to falsify a narrative, which you can read on screen.
Alright, I would like to clear this up. The only thing the Milkmen did, any of them as a whole, was show up to a recording that I had to create a schedule for, say funny words, and then upload their audio to a drive that I manage. I did all post-collection. I managed the channel and its uploads, schedules, and meetings. Okay, so this is one of those things where I'm like, this is weird. Right, when I did the Reddit crew, the point of there being multiple people in the Reddit crew, because I used to do Reddit content with Wild Spartans, King Ani, and a couple other people, right? We used to be friends with Quackity, for example, right? This was before we became friends with Dream and all that shit. we never had a schedule for anything, right? Maybe sometimes people needed to record and we all hung out in like a group chat and shit like that. But it was never anything formalized, right? And the idea is that we all make the same type of content on each one's channels, so that way we can generate, crossover pollination with the audience with, right? It's very. This is one of those things where it's like, why did you need to manage this? Because like you're all YouTubers that have your own channels, and now you're adding an extra channel on top of that. You all know how this industry works. You know how to work with editors, do all that stuff. Why are you adding on an extra layer of like management, Blair? That's very strange. And then she self-appoints herself with all this extra management, and then just says that she deserves extra money because she self-appointed herself to that. That's ridiculous. I would never agree to that. But anyway, I got off topic. It's weird for her to like manage the post, right? She could obviously they could all share stuff into the post. It's just very strange to have her as the middleman. If Blair is sick or something happens to Blair, the entire operation falls apart. Why would you ever design a business where only one person has control of absolutely everything? That one person is sick or dies or anything, and then the entire thing falls apart. Like that's weird. There's no reason for that. I did all the post collection. I managed a channel. It's upload schedules, the meetings. What do you need a meeting for Reddit content? I'm sorry. I'm going to keep like harping on this, but this is because I run a business, guys, right? So yeah, I would hope that I bring something to the table that's at least like come on, let's think about how ridiculous this is. The idea for the videos, all the sad milk finances, that's weird as hell. Taxes, paying all the freelancers, managing the Discord server. She's like self-appointing all these extra things to herself, you know? Xylee, excuse me, sir. Are you live on YouTube? Yes, I am. I want to make it perfectly clear that any of the milkmen had to spend on sad milk was the most 2.5 hours per week. I spent close to 30. I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that one bit. Okay. I do not want the work. I did. That's bullshit. Okay, so fun fact about Blair, she used to be a stripper, right? And I don't know how many of you know what the world of being a stripper is like, but allow me to elaborate a little bit, right? So you got the boss bitch in the back room. You know when the ladies are getting all ready for the dances of the evening and all that shit? Well, you got one bitch who decides that she's in charge of everything. The queen bee ass motherfucker. That is who Blair is. She thinks she's the queen bee. And I'm sorry, Blair. You're not the queen bee. You're just a bitch. There's no way that she spends close to 30 hours a week and then also manages the Illuminati channel. There's no fucking way. She's pulling what, 70, 80-hour weeks for a fucking Reddit channel with 170k subs? Baloney. That is confirmed, yes. I think I said it on a Twitch stream as well. She used to be a stripper, but it's not like the stripper thing matters all that much personally. I just think like if I had to like, I'm trying to characterize her, okay? And at the end of the day, it's just my opinion on what her character is. I might be completely wrong on that, but I think I'm pretty spot on with it. I passed the vibe check the first time, so I did not want the work I did and continue to do, and was belittled by a false narrative. I do that in addition to doing it with 5 other channels. In college for my master's degree, caring for a chronically sick special needs puppy who has my whole heart, 3 merch shops, and a soap business. Okay. You know, hold on. You guys ever know somebody who's like lives at home, does nothing, and is actually a fucking idiot? But they're like a entrepreneur. You know those people on Instagram who put entrepreneur in their titles, but they know nothing, right? And they don't do anything, and they sell a course that they got pre-packaged from Tate or Sneeko or some other fucking red pill jockey, right? That's a Blair. That's a Blair, right? 3 merch shops. What? Fucking a soap business. And yeah, I have seen her soap business. It's some like fucking bullshitty, dumb Etsy store, right? It's like here's a hobby to make cute little extra money in my spare time. These will support strippers' rights. Blair's just a crummy person. I do support strippers. I'm mutuals with some really based strippers, and they're super nice. I asked for help, and the only people that stepped up to the place were Damien, Oz Media, and Wonderstruck. Damien's another member of Sad Milk. When I said I needed help, that's when the fight started, and I got out in the cold by those three. They left in the middle of the night, and I woke up to not even a DM, but a message of the Milkmen chat of them leaving. Yeah, it's just like Etsy bullshit crapola.
I joined in as well on this. I explained how those who departed did not help us in numerous ways, and that it all fell onto us. I'd like to point out that
I can personally verify this as well. I had asked the former members for help in gathering content and had been told by such members it is up to Blair and should be Blair's job, which was never how it was supposed to be. The weight was not distributed equally. When a change was set up for all of us to have fair workload, people bounced. The remaining milkmen have and will continue to carry the passion and drive we hold for the channel. We care about those nearly 200K fans who find comfort, joy, laughter, entertainment in our videos, and we hope to grow this even further. I mean, this was 3 years ago, and I think before TikTok, the way subscribers were valued was like 200K is not nothing to sniff at, but it's just the level of seriousness for the type of content they're making is not equivalent. Like when I did the video Dangerous Candyland with all the Reddit crew, it was just like we were sitting there high one night and we're like, oh, what if we just fucking put on a dog collar and played Candyland, I'm mutuals with some bass strippers, FPS Diesel 2023.
lied on this post. Flick, one topic, and the others did in fact assist in Sad Milk greatly, but they were growing increasingly frustrated and burnt out as what had started as a fun project of friends had turned into a content farm. We were trying to cram recordings in, take time out of our lives, and make content we didn't enjoy at this point. But where this reached its climax of enough is enough.
That's another thing. If you guys notice, all those Reddit groups fell apart, right? One thing you'll notice is that all of them stopped. It's because they're miserable. Reddit content is like, so there's two things, right? Obviously, it's hard to get like motivated about Reddit content because you're just like, the best version of Reddit content is you making jokes and anecdotes based on the post that you read. The worst kind is like text to speech. I'm reading the post, right? And I don't know if all the commentary folks are still listening, right? But I would think that the Reddit crew at least like went a little further to add personality to it. Some people did not. But there was so much bullshit that you would get. And I never made Reddit content. I always made commentary. But you would just get fucking reamed out the ass, right? For making Reddit content like that. You were evil and shit like that. And obviously, the content creators talking about it have a better discussion than the audience. And then the audience narrows it down to like one thing, and then it gets narrowed down a little further. And then it's just like, I'm sitting in California and somebody's like, oh, well, I hope you fucking die. So it's stuff like that. Reddit content always falls apart because people start showering. She intended it that way so she can have control? Yes.
When members would take time out of their day to show up to recordings upon their own busy channels and lives, only to find video and audio recordings of entire Sad Milk episodes had been deleted due to quote-unquote not being good enough. I believe this context is needed and sheds much needed.
That's also stupid as well. I just, not being good enough is an insane thing. You can make a fucking video out of nothing and it'd still be fine, YouTube is like a balancing act between the artistry of making something and then like producing something, right? You can't have every single video you make be the fucking magnum opus Mona Lisa bullshit, right? Like we got to hit somewhere in the middle here. We got to figure out strategies and content, right? If you want to make movies, but that's not what YouTube is, and you got to understand that 100% is never what's going to happen in your career if that's something you ever do. What is it? Perfect is the enemy of done, right? And that'll kill a lot of people.
Light on a post I made out of malice towards my former colleagues. I believed Blair had my best interest at heart and was being thorough with me. I have since been proven that this was far from the case. It's time we set the record straight on the matter. As stated before, my name is Wonder, and this is my response to Blair's Illuminati Exposed. Thank you for being here, and I appreciate you taking the time to hear both sides of the story.
Yeah, it's Reddit. It's not exactly highbrow. Yeah, but the thing is that people didn't even like it because it was lowbrow, right? It annoyed them for its sheer existence on its own. People were annoyed because they didn't that content wasn't putting in the same level of effort as other content, and people were doing really well with it, right? And not to say that was the case all the time. I'm sure plenty of people could generate a good counter argument to that point, but there was a lot of that where they're like, "Oh, well, it's lazy, it's not good, it's boring," right? But hello, K Huck.
In Blair's video, she mentions how she bore the brunt of a lot of the behind-the-scenes works to Sadmilk due to nobody stepping up to the plate to support her. One specific issue she brought to the table in particular was late payments on behalf of the contracted talent of Sadmilk. As I have seen other milkmen and their bank statements, I'd like to focus on her allegations directed towards me in regards to delayed payments. Here is the precise quote referenced.
And I also got stuck footing the bill too. What quickly transpired was that members either couldn't or wouldn't reimburse me for the editors.
I'd like to state that this quote is both chronologically and directly false, and it paints me as a rather greedy and avoidant person, which is not who I am. As I stated in my Twitlogger, which once more you can find in the description, in my span of Sadmilk, I edited roughly 3 to 5 Sadmilk videos. Sadmilk was a channel that lasted almost over a year. I was not an active editor, so to say I paid editors via my own edits is inaccurate. I did not become an editor to cover my share of the joint editing fees. During the time in which Sadmilk became a project, I was living paycheck to paycheck in my first apartment. I was barely 19 and food was pretty much an every other day kind of deal. I'm sure anyone who has had an apartment or been young or on their feet working 2 jobs, you know this life, you know this story, it's been said and done a million times. And yet I always paid my share. I put Sadmilk above my own health because I truly believed in the project. How I came to even edit a single Sadmilk video was when I was in a Discord call with the Sadmilk members, and while we were all chatting, having a good time, I, in my free time, edited a small little demo using all of our sprites.
Everyone, welcome to Sadmilk.
Download today. Oh, sorry.
No!
Welcome to Sadmilk. I was then offered, hey, if you want.
Oh boy, those are rough. How you gonna address that, Blair?
to edit a video, we'd be happy to pay you. I was such a new creator and I was so new to contract work itself that I personally thought $20 was fair pay for my work after my initial payment that I asked for was Burger King because I just wanted dinner. Obviously, I was compensated more than that for that video. After about
editors, your work is worth more than $20 a whole video. Minimum starting, entry level, $20 an hour. And then we go up from there, and we continue to go up. Okay, that's what we do.
3 months in, Sadmilk became profitable though, so while yes, Blair did pay for edits, she was always reimbursed for this. As you can see stated on the screen, you will find bank statements I made directly to Sadmilk during its infancy. Blair's response to this and her closing thoughts on Sadmilk are quoted as the following.
To all of the members of Sadmilk, I just want to say that I'm very sorry that I caused you stress throughout this project.
I'd ask that you remember this quote as I believe, through my own biased lens, that this apology contradicts itself several times throughout this video. But with that, we wrap up the mention of Sadmilk and we now move on to the mention of me, Wonder.
A very convenient series of videos resurfaced with him saying some not so savory things after he left Sadmilk. I was actually unaware of those videos at the time of our friendship, but had I been aware of them, that friendship would have likely ended sooner. When those videos surfaced, it wasn't really all
the videos in question, right? You know what? Let's see if I can pull them up. I don't know how this is gonna go if I play these, but I can find it. I know I can find it. Hold on. Let's see. Here we go. All right. So, Blair's fake sad voice. Here's the thing. All right, I don't know if I can play this because he says the N word. So, what? Let me. So he says, okay, here's the thing, right? Click in this clip says, yo, neighbor, right? That's it. He doesn't say neighbor at anybody. He's not using neighbor in a derogatory sense. He is just saying, yo, neighbor. No hard R, soft A, yo, neighbor. Yeah, and then he's being chastised by this account, Doobie Schmertz. Again, like I understand, you know, some people are like uncomfortable about words being used regardless, right? Here's the thing. Squatch, and thank you for the sub, right? This is a clip of him playing the original Call of Duty, right? When it came out, Call of Duty Black Ops, right? He's playing Call of Duty Black Ops in this clip, and he's talking about a F-slur box, right? Discussing an inanimate object, right? He's not directing it at anybody. None of that is happening. And he's just saying, and so that's how you do that thing with the F-slur box. All right? And this is the original Call of Duty. So we're like 2012, right? When did Black Ops come out? 2012, 2013? Like a decade ago. In this last clip, I will play. This last clip I will play.
Start off by killing off some of these retarded zombies. And I see that there's a...
like what? and then it's like, are autistic people just R-slur zombies? How can you call this you just being very silly and ignorant? Doobie Schmertz, you 2010. Okay, the game came out in 2010. Thank you. Doobie Schmertz, how can you made the connection? He's not saying that people with autism are zombies. Like, that's not, he's not making a comparative statement directly to the autistic community. So this account had been reposting and reposting and reposting this video, trying to get the click to apologize, trying to cancel him. And this account was run by Blair, and I hadn't mentioned that on my previous streams. So this is news to some of you, and probably not news to many of you, especially those of you who follow drama. And obviously the click explains this in his video, that Doobie Schmertz is Blair. And yes, Doobie Schmertz is Blair. And the reason is because Blair runs alt accounts, right? So there's Doobie Schmertz, all right? There's Doobie Ubi, which was an alt for Doobie Schmertz that would signal boost Doobie Schmertz, right? They follow one person, Doobie Schmertz, right? Hold on. I can top that. I can top that. We found, not me, commentary crazy people did, mutuals of mine, found this account, which was open, and I do have footage of. But Sad Rhombus also vent tweeted about the click and the horrible words that the click would say, right? This is Blair's private account that she would post publicly on, right? Now, I can continue to top it, right? So on this account, Blair had all of her like vent tweets about everybody, right? And she was just posting it publicly. Now, I bet you're wondering, how do we find this out? Well, this account followed a mod for Sad Milk's Discord named Mads, right? This person was mutuals with the Illuminati. I don't know if they still are. But I did get confirmation that that person did work as a mod for the Discord server with Illuminati. All right? But even better than that, all right? You know, the whole like, oh, you're calling the autistic people zombies, right? I can top it. Blair very recently was quoted in Discord as saying the R slur. Blair has said the things she accuses the clique of more recently than the clique has said those things. Okay? That is what we're at. But she wouldn't want you to know this. She wouldn't want you to know that as recent as 2019, she was being a little edgelord in Discord, now would she? You love to see it.
That shocking to me, as Ozmedia and I had actually talked about how Click had been using the R slur while we played games together.
Now,
not only that, she pretended to be autistic on the Doobie Schmertz account too. Blair, you can't do that.
I feel the best way to do this would be to start with some quotes, and I'll shed light on my thoughts on said quotes.
A lot of it is fairly tricky since he hinges his accusations on anecdotal commentary. In responding to his baseless claims, I will provide evidence as necessary, as well as point out when things I mention are anecdotal.
After hearing this part of the video, I'd like to know a few things. Yes, my original tweet thread was very anecdotal aside from the photo of the living conditions, which as I mentioned, we will touch base on later in the video. And as I stated before, I felt holding the cards in my hand, as well as not speaking on something that could very well encroach into legal matter territory, was in my
question. Why did she go after the clique this hard? Okay, so there's a couple of reasons and theories for this. Blair, whenever Blair wrongs someone, and she's done this her entire career, whenever she wrongs someone, what she does is that she tries to defame them, right? So if you make someone look like they're an unreliable narrator, even if they come out later trying to speak facts about a situation and they're 100% true, if you destroy their credibility enough in advance, nobody's ever going to listen to them post that, right? So if she is aware that she is a bad person and she doesn't have some crazy victim complex, she needs the clique to look bad so that way she can't look bad in the future, right? That the clique is an untrustworthy individual. For example, Nicholas Diorio was accused of making fun of her cancer and miscarriage. Two things, I can't remember if it was cancer and miscarriage or just miscarriage. Nicholas Diorio was not aware of those things. She had just said those things about him in private to other people, including Cruel World Happy Mind, who I reached out to, and that'll be included in the video. All right. But she would try to defame him so that way when he speaks about her, nobody will listen to him. All right? So that is the thing. It was both at different points in time. Thank you. It was cancer and miscarriage. Listen, I gotta maintain this in my like the schizophrenic drama brain, you know. I gotta just remember it off the rip right now. Yeah. She's poisoning the well. She's poisoning the well. That's basically it, right? To simplify it down. Yeah, she also holds like really strong grudges, things like that.
my best interest. I had been Blair's friend for years. I expected her to try to do something where she would try to twist the narratives. At least, in my experience, that is what I have seen in the past. So while yes, I was very word of mouth, however, it was not my intention to remain word of mouth. That is untrustworthy, and never in a million years would that back up any of the claims that I am here to bring forward. Moving on to the next section I'd like to touch base on, we are going to go over her discussion of my employment. Now I'd like to note that the discussion of employment will come back around as she gets into another section surrounding legalities, which ties in towards the end of my employment.
Let's start with Wonder's accusation of wage theft. That's a big one, and it's important. During December 2020, like all of the members of SadMilk, Wonder was considered a contractor. On December 24th, 2020, at 5:39 a.m., I received a message from Wonder letting me know that he took a shot at reworking a video that had already been edited by a different contractor. I want to clarify, I did not ask him to do this. This was something he did of his own accord. I don't want to claim to know what goes on in Wonder's personal life. Claiming that he missed Christmas with his brother and father, I just don't know how that's possible when the video was finalized early morning on Christmas Eve.
You claim you don't know what goes on in my personal life, but you go in depth about my living situation, my views on life, my depression, my car, my dog, and my mental health. I don't mean this in an antagonizing manner. Let's just call a spade a spade. As for missing Christmas, you raise a very good point, and without context, I can understand where your confusion would arise, so hopefully I can clear this up for you. I'd like to paint a picture here if you'd allow me to do so. December is one of the most important months as a creator. For those of you who don't know, there are better or worse months to post to YouTube due to when advertisers are most willing to pay.
So here's something that's worth mentioning, and I think I mentioned on Twitch, right? But Blair does all the scheduling with SadMilk, right? She does all the scheduling. She's aware of all these things, right? She knows when the SadMilk men are awake, when they're asleep, when they're available, when they're not. So when the click stuff comes out, something that's interesting about Blair's response to it is that Blair would have been completely aware of the schedule that Click had, meaning that she would know that the Click is asleep in the time where there would have been a nonce running amok on his Discord server. Ergo, how could she accuse him of knowing when she would know his schedule just as well as the Click would know his own?
And most advertisers are wanting to put their highest performing ads on videos during the holiday months, such as Christmas. This equals a higher CPM.
And here's another thing. Blair makes that thing about like, oh, well, he finished it early morning. And I know he's about to explain this, but if you go back and you look at the screenshot, it says that he finished a video at 5:39 a.m. Christmas Eve. If you're working through the night and you finish an edit at 5:39 a.m., what are you going to do after you finish the video at 5:39 a.m.? Birds chirping, snow falling in the distance. You're going to go to fucking bed.
PM, which for those of you who...
And for some reason, people didn't notice this even before. I mean, you know, I had noticed a little bit of this, but, you know, some people just took her at her face value. You know, they didn't read the receipts that she provided. But even if you just read the receipts that you provide, you can make these connections on your own.
Are in the creator space, it will all just kind of water down to this. Higher paying ads plus more videos equals more push equals more money in your pocket. It's a lot of boring stuff. Puts food on the table, pays your bills. That's all you need to know. At this time, I was a full creator. I didn't make crazy amounts of money, but I made enough to live on my own terms. During December, I was churning out content from my own channel. I needed it as a small growing channel and as someone who needed to pay his bills. However, our editors were short in the month of December, so what Blair fails to mention in her video, I will clarify. December 21st, I had just completed a SadMilk video that took me 16 hours give or take to make. I had pulled an all-nighter to do so, as we had discussed trying to have a stronger pull for the holiday months. A few days prior, I had just pulled yet another all-nighter to get a video out for the 19th on my own personal channel. We had an editor who had been tasked to complete a SadMilk vlog that was intended to go up December 24th. Blair had hired this editor. She never once, as far as my knowledge, checked in on this editor to see his progress with said video. Where I grew worried is that as far as I knew, I had never seen this editor do any work for SadMilk, and we were really coming up on the deadline of the 24th. On December 23rd, after starting another project and working through the entire day, putting a dent into my own personal...
You know, this, Blair, Shannon, and Dav Pina should start a podcast, the Grass Touchers podcast. Yeah, I don't think they're much of a grass touching group, Ethan. But thank you for the 5, my guy. But well, what, you know, you're asking people to think for themselves. The thing is, right, is you don't even need to be a genius, right? I'm not doing anything that's like extravagant to notice those inconsistencies. You know, sometimes if you have a special skill set, yeah, but it's hard to be charitable on YouTubers. You get uncharitable very easily, you know? Like, why the fuck would I ever be charitable to iDubbbz ever again? Like, the guy is not a reputable narrator at all. Like, I wonder if there was a gingerbread Christmas video I sent you they had to work on. I hope not, because if that took 16 hours, then Wonder might be one of the slowest editors I've ever seen. It doesn't. I can tell you, it doesn't take me 8 hours to make a video like that. I can finish that in a day and still get sleep, lunch, and go to the gym. Like, but if it was Christmas Eve, then that would be funny, because that was not a good video, in my opinion. I mean, from a production standpoint.
Edit, I got into bed only to find that Oz had received the video from the editor. I took a look at the video, asked an unbiased source their opinion, and we all agreed that the video had major issues for a supposed finished product. These issues included scuffed audio, poor audio leveling, unnecessary edits that made relatively no relation to the edit itself, followed by long periods of dead air for an increased watch time push. I do not mean this as an insult. Resembled a
Core, I think this was a gingerbread video. I think you're right. 100%. It has to be.
home movie gone bad rather than a fleshed out project for a channel that had almost 200,000 subscribers. I knew this was a severe problem for two reasons. First, the deadline for the upload was the following morning. Second, this video was expensive and intended since November to be a Christmas Eve video. The video in reference was a Sad Milk Gingerbread house building competition where we all flew out to Colorado. Blair purchased a large amount of items for said video, such as microphones, gingerbread houses, and Santa hats, all that material you need to make a gingerbread house. I'd like to add that Blair intended to use these expenses as a tax write-off, so it wasn't a total loss. We were all...
That's a weird mention. I'm sorry. Anything I put in a video and use in a video is a tax write-off. Anything I use in the production of my videos is a tax write-off. There's nothing illegitimate or wrong in writing off gingerbread houses if you use them as props in a video. That is how film works. That's how that industry works. Obviously, you shouldn't go, oh, look at my new water bottle. Oh, guys, anyway, today's video is about, fucking... Oh, my lord, that's funny. Tax write-off, a YouTuber's best friend. Jesus Christ. He mentions it because of the timing, I think. Yeah, because you need to get in the video before the turn of the new year, right? So you want it to be counted in your, I don't know, 2022 taxes. You need to finish it before New Year's Eve.
Contracted for an entertainment company. In order for this to be a tax write-off, we would need to produce a video to prove as such. So now we have to think of the perception of Sad Milk, a project that represented all of our names. This puts us in a position with very limited options. We either let down the...
Travis, I will say, in my business, tax write-offs are really fucking important. I itemize everything, and I get a larger deduction from my expenses than if I just took a standard deduction. So it is better for me to itemize. But that's like really boring, like background YouTube stuff. Anyway, this is what happens when you take this seriously and you don't just sit around with your dick in your hand and produce videos, right?
Audience and post a very scuffed video that would exhibit a lack of care for the content we were making, which was not ideal given we had just lost half our members. We delayed the video, which ties in with the first issue as our Christmas Eve video, which would either get out the 26th or the 27th at the earliest due to our available editors. Or we scrap the video, which leaves Blair out of money regardless, but now we have also wasted an entire trip visiting another state, and there are a bunch of expenses that can't qualify as a tax write-off. So I got out of bed after working all day, and I took my best shot at reworking a video in a style I was not familiar with. I was up roughly until 5 a.m. working on that video, and I waited to make sure it was good to upload and that we had the okay. I did this to avoid those negative outcomes.
Taxes better be sparkly and perfect. Nothing scarier than the IRS. A YouTuber's greatest enemy is an audit.
Listed. My sleep schedule was beyond screwed, so by the time I went to bed later that night, I slept due to pure exhaustion until well into the early afternoon of Christmas Day. To add to this, my family does not see each other very often, so for us to be in one room is a very rare thing. I had not seen my brother in almost a year, and I know Christmas is important.
Make a channel about the boring behind-the-scenes info. Call it FPS taxes. Call it FPS write-offs. And it's just like me, like being like, look at this. Isn't it cool? Anyway, we're going to sit here and talk about it for 10 minutes. Anyway, I'm going to write it off now. Quick question. Do YouTubers work like businesses with 4 quarter sectors, or is it like a normal person's taxes? If you're crazy, you can do your taxes like a normal person, and then because you get paid in a 1099, you get paid like a contractor from YouTube. So what happens is you pay no taxes all year, and then they ask up front, oh, give us everything, right? So if you're not insane, what you do is you do quarterlies. But if you like to see how much IRS takes from you, then you file it all at once. And I can tell you that I don't make a lot of money, and the IRS takes quite a bit of it. So, definitely set up the quarterly. Do a room tour during FPS taxes and write everything off. That's so based.
My father. Since we can't all spend an entire day together as we all have our own various lives, we plan to spend the morning of Christmas together. Obviously, it did not pan out that way. I'd like to add that no, Blair did not directly ask me to make this rework. However, Blair had made it clear in the last few months, especially when Click and OT left, that she felt she had no help with the channel, that she felt the responsibility fell onto her. This was me helping her. Not just her, but a project I dearly cared about. I'd like to now focus on my pay. I said I was not paid until half a month after. This, I will admit, was anecdotal mostly. Blair said I was paid on a bi-weekly Sad Milk basis. At this time, Sad Milk was making money, just not a whole lot of it after editorial expenses. So typically I could see a check for $80 to $140 every month. As for editing, I had negotiated $500 per edit as Oz helped me realize my worth as an editor, and as for compensation for me not being a full-time editor. I'd like to add that in part of what I agreed for edits, I would do additional sprite movement, motion, and scene creation. This was painstaking to do, but this was also a quality result I would bring to the table of this channel while also working on my own channel. The editor we hired to the vlog, to my knowledge, was to be paid $200 for their edit. However, since I reworked the video last minute, I was to be compensated with $100, which I believe was fair pay. So I'd like for us to view the following bank statements, 2 in particular, one on January 29th, 2021 for $125, and another on February 29th, 2021 for $600. Now, I tried to dig deeper, but this just says a transaction from a bank occurred. I'd like to state that at first, I believed I was receiving Sad Milk payments via PayPal, so I tried to find an old email. Since I was making a fair amount of money, I would usually just let money stack into my PayPal and I would take it all out at once.
That's
and
a
you
bad
can
idea.
see
Don't
right
ever do that. Don't ever do that. Don't use PayPal like a bank. Don't leave your shit in PayPal. Don't do that.
here that this is what a statement like that would look like in my bank account. At this time, I worked full-time, so my only income.
Is that a fair rate for the level of editing? Yes. Well, it depends, right? So your rate should like really be determined by what are the views being brought in. I mean, you could very much undercharge, and it depends. Like I do contract work, and I don't charge a lot, and I really should charge more. But you know, it's one of those it depends type deals, right? So it's hard to say. I think that's a fair amount for what he's doing. Probably he could push those numbers up.
Was from Google AdSense, Twitch, and Sad Milk. While it has been a long time, if I remember correctly, these payments would numerically and chronologically.
Why wouldn't you leave your money in PayPal like that? PayPal is easier to break into. It's easier to fall for phishing attacks. There's less verification, and fraud protection is not as good. Your account can get deleted. Your account can get taken over by PayPal, stuff like that. So it's better to just use it as like a go-between to transfer into your bank than to leave stuff in there. It's not as secure, and you're much better off with like trusting a financial institution than PayPal. Like we have a PayPal for Mana Potion Coffee, and we don't leave the money in there. It leaves the account on a normal basis.
Line up with Sad Milk and editor payments. It is the only possible source of this income that makes sense, which then shows me for the month of January, I actually only received one Sad Milk payment. If that's
Has it happened to you? I know people that it's happened to. Thank you, Mod Greg. PayPal is not a bank and does not have to adhere to the FDIC regulations. There you go. That's a great answer. Shout out to Greg.
the case, and it also distinctly shows that I was in fact paid separately as both Sad Milk talent and an editorial talent. I'd like to note that these payments are over the course of 1 to 2 months, not a month and a half. At the beginning of January, you can see I was paid $100 from this income source. That would make sense given half of the $200 video would, yes, be $100. However, if you look at the month of December, I did not receive one payment from Sad Milk. So I would assume, unless Sad Milk just did very poorly that month and we made absolutely zero income, as I did not manage these channels' finances, this payment would be the Sad Milk payment for December. And if it was for fixing the video, why was I clearly paid the $600 here followed by the prior regular Sad Milk bank statement, $500 being for the original video I did and $100 being for the video I corrected? I had someone else take a look at the calendar, and if these payments were bi-weekly and I had a pay period beginning on the 1st, my pay period should have seen payments starting from the 1st, followed by the 15th, the 29th, which is correct, but we were missing a pay period, the 12th, then the 26th, but I was paid on the 19th. You can argue that Sad Milk was performing bad financially, which resulted in delayed or no payments by this time, as we had not uploaded since December and views did in fact dwindle. But that begs the question, if the payment of $600 is an editor payment, which I'd argue is because Sad Milk itself and its contractors never saw an amount that large in its history, why am I being paid for it not half a month late, but almost 2 months late? My only other theory is that these payments were in a source such as PayPal, where I could allow the funds to store up then deposit. However, it would still be delayed and show I was paid separately as an editor and contracted talent for Sad Milk.
During this time, he would often tell both Oz Media and myself how living in Austin, Texas was a nightmare for him. He would often complain about his roommates being terrible people, his friends being mostly terrible people and unmotivated to do well in life, and how his car was always breaking down and how his channel was not going in the direction he wanted. And then he talked about that last bit of family that he had moving away, and he was essentially alone. I won't speak on behalf of Oz, but I know I was moved by Wonder's stories.
So I'd like to clarify here. Yes, I didn't like living where I lived. I live, as Blair stated, in Austin, Texas, and I don't mean to be humorous here given the severity of this video, but it's like, man, the people who live here hate living here. It's just like a thing. Like, I'm gonna maybe go get some groceries today. You gotta wait like 5 hours in line behind rows and rows of traffic. You want to go to the
America moment, am I right?
the park, you gotta drop like $15 just to touch grass because you gotta pay for parking. It's like a meme here that if you see a cardboard box, like any person who's from here will point it and be like, oh yeah, that looks like it would go for $2,300. There's many great things about this place, but it's for a very niche particular crowd of people, which I do not fall in line with that. As for my roommates, I only had one roommate, and he's one of my best friends who I would do literally anything for. Have I gotten annoyed with him? Yes. Who hasn't been annoyed with any friend in their life? I'm sure I've done plenty of things to piss him off. Is he a terrible person? Never in a million years, so I don't know why this is even really being brought up. I think the times where I got most annoyed was where there were 2 incidences where I accidentally got locked out of the house, and he sleeps like you could probably fire a ballistic missile next to this man and he would sleep through it. So I ended up having to sleep in my car twice, and there was dishes out and stuff we've all made the same mistake of in the past, okay? He's not a terrible person, and neither are my friends. And no, I wouldn't say that my friends are unmotivated in life. I would say that during this time, I was really wanting to move forward with content and really get into creating full time, which I was already doing, but I wanted to take it a step further. I wanted this to be my life. And my friends, obviously, because everyone has different goals and dreams, do not share this sentiment. It wasn't that they were unmotivated, it's that I just was losing that connection of, hey, y'all don't really get what I'm doing, I don't really get what you're doing, and it sucks, but that's just how friends are, you know? You're not gonna relate forever with every single thing you and your friends do. As for my car was not breaking down constantly. I had a 2011 sedan. The only thing I didn't like about it was that somebody rear-ended the back and it looked like it was dented in. It looked like someone took a massive fist to the back of the car. I have never had one maintenance issue on that car. In fact, my brother still owns the car to this day. My channel was actually going in a really good direction. At this time, I was starting to pull a lot of steady views, but the narrative behind the closed doors in Sad Milk was that we should all be moving away towards Reddit content and getting into video essay type content like Blair. It was a
I have an anecdote about this, but I want to read what Eve just put in chat. I'm from a suburb where you got to drive everywhere, but in NYC there's always something to do or see. It is expensive though, so yeah, I'm in a New York metro area suburb as well, and it's shitty and expensive, and I hate driving, which is why I like the city, is because I can get places on foot. But I've been to a couple cities, and the worst kinds of cities are car-dependent cities. They're the worst of both fucking suburb traffic and annoying, terrible, shitty metropolitan areas where there's nothing going on. All right, so New York City's great because it's walkable, right? But New York City's bad because it's expensive. But, you know, different strokes for different folks. There are some days where I'm like, I wish to retreat into the forest and never be seen again, and live as a hermit in the woods and offer up wise wisdom to strange passers-by who need guidance in their life. But, you know, it depends on what kind of mood I'm in. I'm more of a city guy, though, I think. Gun to my head. My sister told NYC natives, you like bodegas? Suburbs don't have them. No, they have like a pharmacy and a plaza, right? And you go to that pharmacy in the plaza, and they have the pizza place that nobody goes to, a bank you've never heard of, and a Chinese restaurant. My goblin brain craves the forest.
Very known thing behind closed doors where we would insult and belittle anyone who still did Reddit, while Oz and
Okay. So this is really interesting, right? So Blair helped lead a charge behind the scenes to get them all to become video essayist channels. People always say shit like that, where it's like, the only place I've seen a rat larger than a cat. You know, I've never seen a rat that big. I don't know where the fuck people are seeing these things. I'm in the city all the time. But like I just find it so funny what's happening to Wonder behind the scenes. It's very telling of the times, and also like how good is the Chinese restaurant though? No, you walk into the Chinese restaurant, Greg, and it has the same stuff. You know like every Chinese takeout place has the same stuff, right? Where they got the really blurry old pictures of chicken with broccoli that they all got from the same place. And it's all playing the same, like, shamisen music, right? And it's all, like, a little sticky in there, right? Times Square. Well, Times Square is shit. I hate being there. I hate it. It's miserable. Times Square is fucking terrible. I'm never there. But like, you know the pictures, right? Where you get the number one, and it's this. And then you have, like, the egg foo young at the other side. It's all the same pictures. It's always the same. But I'm getting... Why the fuck are we talking about Chinese restaurants? I need to talk about Reddit. So anyway, I find it very telling that this is happening, right? And I think the reason that Blair is pushing this is because Blair got in with a bunch of video essayists, right? Right? That like all have the same opinions and all have the same shit. So she's trying to push all of her friends to do that, right? When I was doing Reddit content, we were all trying to push each other to do Reddit content, right? Well, I didn't want to do it, but everybody else around me was like, do it. And guess what? All of those people are much more successful than me, so maybe I should have done Reddit content, but who am I?
I actually were still doing Reddit, so it developed into a resentment towards my own content, which my audience liked, but I now was finding that I despised what I did.
Without going into personal details, I was pretty horrified by what he had explained happened in his past. I was saddened by how he constantly talked about how bad his life was and how he felt like a failure. He said he felt alone, depressed, and uncertain of the future, and at that point, I knew I wanted to help him in whatever way I could.
I feel this is very contradictory to to say without going into personal details than to turn around and spread personal details about my views towards life. Again, these were very private things I kept between you. Yes, I suffer from depression. A lot of people do, and oftentimes that can skew your view towards life itself. The only time I ever really felt like a failure was when I constantly was compared via Social Blade, etc., and told how much better I could be doing if I did XYZ.
The Diesel Reddit arc would have went hard. You could have been on Dream SMP. Here's the thing. It would have never happened, right? Because I made drama content, period. And you know what happens when you make drama content? You hang out with people. And some people get a little nervous, right? They're like, oh, was he going to do a video on me? I don't want to tell him personal details. And I never tell personal details. I've never broken the trust of anybody like that. It's just not who I am. But, whew, boy, like, the shit I've been said in private. I've had mutuals in public insult me on Twitter, and I take it private because I don't want them to get shit from the other commentary people because I'm trying to be nice. And then they leave me on red. It's like, okay, you're going to, like, chastise me for my opinion, not back it up, and then when I try to address it like an adult in private, you're not going to handle it? So could I have ever been on Dream SMP? Maybe, but I don't think that would have been me. I've always carried myself like an older person. I've always been a little bit sour and salty at the world, right? It wouldn't be me. I don't want some stupid Funko Pop Fumo plushie of me that 10-year-olds are going to have. I'd much rather have an older audience, personally. So I'd rather struggle to make what I have work and make it work than to sell my soul to Satan in that regard, right? But it's not that I have anything like against it personally, I think, right? People scared you'll do drama content on them or people who have skeletons in their closet, I feel like. Sometimes it's just like, there's like two ways about it, right? Either you have skeletons in your closet or YouTube drama really sounds like high school drama, to be honest, because it is. But so you're either the skeletons in the closet guy, which is much less likely, right? But a lot of people are like positivity Andes, right? So a positivity Andes like, oh, you fucking, I gotta be all Mr. Positive, you know, I can't handle any negativity in my life. We're all about the good vibes here. And then they're just like psychotically positive and they just cannot handle anything that's like negative, right? Do what you enjoy. I mean, you know, I do enjoy the content I put on FPS Diesel, but I lose subs with every upload. So it's kind of like, it's like visual, it's like mental self-harm to like upload on the main channel right now. Just do a little sellout. We'll pretend not to have noticed. Get that bread up. That's why I'm streaming, guys. It's low effort content. And it makes a whole big VOD for you all to watch, and I get money from that.
It made me feel like I was underachieving as a small channel.
At the end of 2020, I paid for his tickets to visit Oz and me in Colorado. During this trip, we discussed the possibility of Wonder moving out to Colorado due to his discontent with his life in Texas.
Hold on. Let me go back. That went by way too fast.
We discussed the possibility of Wonder moving out to Colorado due to his discontent with his life in Texas.
Trip was not to discuss me moving out to Colorado. This was a trip for the Sad Milk Christmas video that we filmed in November. Me and the other members had talked about moving to Colorado due to us wanting to do live Sad Milk content. Blair had been speaking of getting into real estate and wanted to build homes for us. This did not extend to just me. She wanted to build a home for another member and I, as well as one for Oz to have a separate recording space. That's weird. That's very strange. Start doing TikTok dances and cosplays. Okay, so if this is, this means Blair would have been a landlord to 3 other Sad Milk members, not just me. Okay, so this is what I think it is. Our final member left at the end of December. I was the last person on the list to become a tenant. Here's proof of the trip being for sad milk and the existence of the cul-de-sac for sad milk members. Okay, like, this is insane, right? She wanted to make a company town. She wanted to do what Mr. Beast does, right? So, another story, right? I had gone out to Colorado as well to talk with the Reddit crew. A lot of YouTubers moved to Colorado, by the way, just in case you're curious. It's very cheap to live there, and the city's very nice, and they legalized weed first because a lot of YouTubers smoke a lot. But, like, okay, so this is what I mean when I say that Blair is like an idiot for a business person. When you get into real estate, what you don't do is buy new land, new developments, and buy new houses and build new houses on them to order for your specific needs. So she's going to buy 4 plots of land and build like 4 houses on it. And then design these houses specifically for the intent of YouTubers? Like, does she understand how real estate works? That is an insane proposition. That is a horrible, horrible way to structure your real estate investments. On top of that, that's weird as hell, okay? A lot of YouTubers get into real estate a lot more than you know. Even some of those bread tubers who say that they're all about the workers and they're like, fuck landlords. Guess what? They're a landlord, ha ha ha, right? Including Blair. Blair's literally that person. Why didn't she buy houses or flip a house? Yeah, that would have been cheaper. That would have been cheaper. That's weird, right? I'm not reading into it. I'm not saying that it's anything more than it is. I'm not accusing her of anything, but it's fucking weird to do that. And then to get all of your members in sad milk to be tenants to you is even stranger, right? That cross-pollination is not good. When you have different businesses and your money in different pockets, don't put it all like in one conglomerate like that. That's so bad. That's a great way to lose all your money. This is not financial advice. This is not financial advice. This is not financial advice. Don't sue me. Don't sue me. Don't sue me. Listen, when I live somewhere, I don't want to be like living in like my weird YouTuber Hooverville, okay? That sounds like hell.
Ozmedia and I had just moved into his newly purchased home in April 2021, and he decided to welcome Wonder into his house. Unless Ozmedia was doing so without my understanding, Wonder was not charged any rent, utilities, or internet for sharing our living space.
Yes, we had actually discussed a payment plan for rent. What Blair leaves out, and what I find very perplexing as to why she left out in her video, is that the reason I didn't pay rent was because I was going to become Blair's tenant. Not once does she mention throughout this video that when I first had the discussion of moving to Colorado, it was because Blair wanted to get her hands into the real estate market and wanted to build a home, something she had discussed with other former Sad Milk members. It wasn't just me. I made a reasonable first tenant. I was someone she knew, and I obviously made income, so kind of put 2 and 2 together. You can say this is a good deed on the surface, and it most certainly appears that
Yeah, you make income, but you make income from her. Like, if you have a falling out with your boss, you have a falling out with your landlord in the same token. Like,
wait, I'll get into
like that.
how over time Blair would have controlled every aspect of my life, be it transportation, income, and housing. I sincerely do not understand why the conception of this home was never presented in the video. It leaves out a massive gap of context. The home I was told would be finished by August and that I could stay the summer. And the last month before moving to Colorado, after finalizing my lease, I was informed that the home would be pushed back until December. It's made me highly uncomfortable, which you can see the dates in these private DMs between Oz and a friend of mine who will remain.
Yeah, exactly. She's complaining that Oz let him live in the house rent-free. It wasn't even her house, it was Oz's.
Anonymous. I have always been a very independent person. I have never had someone else pay my rent once in my life, and I have been living on my own since I was 18. To try to paint me as a freeloader when you also leave out that I was originally only supposed to stay until August, you were supposed to be my landlord, and that I only stayed 30 days in Colorado feels like a contorted attack on who I am as a person. While I was in their home, if I didn't know how to help, I would oftentimes clean their home. I wanted to help Blair with her recording space as she felt stressed in her little office. I wanted to buy us plants to liven the place up. I tried at every possible turn to earn my keep. And when I felt alienated, I tried to actively find an apartment in Colorado Springs to give them both the space, as I felt horrible, seemingly never being.
From what I remember, Colorado Springs is an expensive neighborhood. I want to look outside of there. Obviously, this is like, you know, I'm like saying this like as it's happened in the past, but it's just like, you know, young person makes bad financial decision type thing.
Able to help in any way at all. It was beyond unfair. I made every effort to not be a burden, as it is quite frankly one of my biggest fears in my entire life.
I'm Oz. Y'all know me as Oz Media.
Now, during the month of June, I stayed with you, Oz, and Blair. During this time, did Blair provide work to me as an editor? If this wasn't a case, did you ever witness me personally trying to assist Blair in anything else?
Like, yeah, I mean, you weren't provided work for like a majority of the time that you were actually employed. I think we were also working on like Thinkology at the time, but like nothing really came out of that besides a couple recordings, and you ended up not really wanting to pursue that. So there wasn't like any work that she had actually given you part of the company. You were kind of just literally being paid to like stand around. I might be wrong on this, but you actively did try to like assist her with her like the candle shop that she was just starting up, and I mean, she didn't like that, but you were actively trying to seek out and find work, so it's not like you were just like freeloading off of it. You, from my memory, you were trying to actually earn your keep.
Blair proceeds to go on an explanation as to how well her channel was doing and that she felt grateful to be in a position to help someone she cared deeply about. On June 7th, 2021, I was hired by Blair starting at $50,000 a year, as she stated, which was a number that seemed...
Oh my God. She paid $50,000 a year for him to not do work because she didn't give him anything. I'm beginning to think that Blair might be a bad manager.
rather life-changing to me. At face value, I'm sure anyone who saw this viewed me as someone who had to cut a few clips together and everything was happily ever after. That is what I personally expected. However, I will explain that this was not the case regarding my employment, as I was soon to find out.
During his employment, he never took advantage of any of the benefits that were made available to him.
The reason I did not use any of these benefits was because I was employed for roughly 60 days. I had just moved to another state. I barely even knew the roads and where to even go to eat. I wasn't focused on doctor visits, the dentist, and unless I turn 85 years old, I can't really use my 401k. The only thing that I can think of was the groceries that the LSA covers, but as I stated before, I'm a rather independent person, so I didn't need Blair to particularly buy me groceries. I also find it unnecessary that she goes out of her way to explain the volunteer reimbursement program she has. If I didn't use any of the benefits, why is it necessary to go into detail about them? Was I expected to, in the middle of moving to a new—
She's trying to paint him as being ungrateful or like someone who doesn't take initiative when he's given opportunity, right? But like, honestly, I probably would think that Blair wouldn't explain these things. If the paperwork is done correctly, I bet you she'd have it in a fine print, but she just doesn't seem like the type who would just be really excited about giving out these things. I know she says it, she acts like it, but how what you say is different than what you're doing, and I just don't think she's communicating that.
New state for the first time since I was 7, volunteer at a soup kitchen to pass the time.
The content for Wonder to edit was dependent on me being able to live stream. During this time, I unfortunately only had 2 streams for him to work on, which Wonder would have been able to produce about 4 videos from. Wonder did not meet the deadlines for either stream. Despite this, I kept him on payroll, I continued his pay, even though no work had ever been completed. Although there was only a minuscule amount of work for Wonder to do, he still managed to act up within company company spaces. He made inappropriate comments on forms that were visible to other employees, didn't complete tasks that were assigned to him, and he failed to follow company protocol. I have a strict policy regarding formal disciplines, and within his short time of working with me, he had already met the criteria for termination.
After hearing this, I'd assume you'd attribute me as someone with a very poor work ethic, and I honestly would not blame you. However, while Blair is being very anecdotal here, I'd like to provide receipts that prove the following. Proof that I was not kept on payroll and I was fired before my deadline even happened. These were not short clips. The comment that I made on a forum that was grounds for termination, Blair leaving out how long it took her to actually provide content to edit, Blair leaving out that I had asked for work and various other aspects, my deadline extension due to my computer editing software corrupting, not me being lazy, me flying to another state to meet said deadlines with plane tickets provided, and again, proof that I was fired before my deadline even happened. Before we begin, I'd like to state that I was informally fired on a phone call July 27th, that I received my final severance letter July 30th. But as you can see here in private DMs with an editorial manager, my deadline was extended to August 2nd. I was fired within my deadline. To add context, Blair had not streamed for the entire month of June, and come the further end of mid-July, she had finally streamed. I was given one stream that would result in 2 videos having 20-minute plus durations on both videos. So for context, these were not short clips, rather 20 to 40-minute chunks of content, which is exactly what I signed up for. This in itself was not a problem. However, upon getting far into making the video, my editing software corrupted.
My
Said in a
my
statement-
brother in Christ, no wonder it's taking you so fucking long to edit. I know, like, sometimes I'm, like, mentioning things before they happen in the video. This is my first time watching it, guys. But then also, like, on top of that, like, again, I've worked in this industry a long time. What else? Fucking, I edit professionally. I edit for YouTubers and commercial corporate clients. I teach editing. So, you know, I teach filmmaking, tons of shit, right? So here's my prediction, right? That Illuminati exposed video that she edited herself, I think Blair edited that on her phone using an editing software called KindMaster, right? Wonder, and I mean this with respect, and I am sorry for the position that you've been in. Who the fuck gave you Filmora to edit on? Who the fuck gave that to you? Take that away from him right now. Wonder. Listen. Get Pirate Premiere, or better yet, download DaVinci Resolve. It's free, and then your skills as an editor will transfer from YouTube to the professional field, where you can make over $100,000 a year easy. So it's DaVinci, Premiere, and Avid. If you learn all 3 of those, you can work in any studio in Hollywood. Oh man, but just Filmora is so bad. It's so bad. Oh man. Please, DaVinci is free. I'm not a sponsor. I don't edit with DaVinci. I edit with Premiere, okay? But DaVinci Resolve is way better. See, Rennie uses DaVinci Resolve. Like, Filmora is for, like, moms, you know? I like that I now know you edit for Itozi, because now when I watch them, I think, good job, Diesel. I don't edit all of them. He has another guy that also edits, right? So it's like it's a small team. What about Sony Vegas? Sony Vegas is okay, but there's no professional place that I have ever seen, you know? Yeah, I don't want to fucking Filmora sponsor anyway, but, yeah, they had their whole licensing thing that happened a while ago, but yeah. Sony Vegas is okay, but you're not going to get jobs anywhere, you know. Honestly, the best one to learn is Avid, but Avid is cringe.
That it was pleased with the ruling, which would allow it to continue to use treatment. So that's from this article.
I was staying with my dad in Texas, which we'll touch base on why in a little bit here, and only had my laptop, which had never had an issue before. I had had this laptop for roughly, I want to say a year at this point. Never once had I run into a software corrupting issue. So I reached out to an editorial manager explaining the situation. They asked that I take PTO, but instead I held off because Oz Media said he could get my PC fixed. I was running out of time, but my deadline initially was July 26th. So last second, I flew to Colorado to get my computer just so I could turn around and fly back. It was at this time I had noticed I was locked.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Yes, I've seen a Tozy with his hat off. A couple of months ago I went to see his son. Oh, that was interesting. It's very weird to have friends who are parents now. Later, Cat. Thank you for stopping by.
Out of the editor files, which I found odd given that I was still within my deadline, but I didn't exactly know what was happening. I just had figured it was an error at the time. I'd like to make note that the other editorial manager explained.
Oh, Jesus, hold on.
Had figured it was an error at the time. I
was able to complete the video as I transferred over the original video files from my laptop and started from scratch. I had Blair's sprites from the drive. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, there's like a couple. See, this is why you don't edit on Filmora, guys, right? Because if he was editing in Premiere or Resolve or anything, he could like grab an XML file or the project file and edit on any other computer, and he wouldn't have had to fly. You know, obviously he's going above and beyond, and the person who's responsible for this is Blair, because if Blair's the manager, then Blair should be like, here are the rules for this company, right? We all edit in this, right? We do this, right? There's like rules. I have to edit in Premiere for Atozy because Atozy's other editor, Daniel, edits in Premiere. Okay, so it makes it easier for us to work collaboratively when we both work on the same system. Trust me, as a 30-year-old, I get that. It's so weird seeing tiny versions of your friends. I just started watching, but something is bothering me about Wonder. He says his psych called when he said he was looking for a gun to off himself. The law requires that she have him committed for 48 hours. So why didn't that happen? Yeah, that's state by state.
I'd like to make note that the other editorial manager explained to me that my deadline at this time had actually been extended to August 2nd. The editorial manager reached out to me on the 26th saying we needed to talk. For one reason or another, this conversation got pushed to July 27th. I believe this was just due to a simple scheduling conflict. I believe by the time I was able to take a call, that like when I had seen the message, they were busy for the rest of the day. So it just got pushed over to July 27th. It wasn't like I was like ducking the calls like, oh my goodness. It was here on this call that I was fired for explicitly not meeting deadlines, which I find highly confusing due to once more I must reiterate that my deadline was August 2nd. Not to be redundant, but I'd like to remind you that I flew to another state just to meet this deadline for my boss, who was constantly subtweeting about me. You can see is acknowledged even by one of her own managers, and they told me specifically that this was not okay behavior. A few days later,
Yeah, well, it's like, yeah, Blair is bad, but like, God, it's like a problem with like young workers, right? Because part of what I do is like young worker training, and so I work with like people like 18, 19, people going to college, people younger than that, right? But it's just like I'm just so flabbergasted at how poorly Blair has ran this business that this guy is flying out to go see Blair to like make up for something that fucking happened. like these things could have been avoided if the system was better, you know. Jesus Christ, Blair, hire me as a consultant. I know that I said you're a massive bitch, and I think you are, but yeah, you don't know what you're doing. You literally don't know what you're doing. Oh my God. Like a lot of these problems that Wonder is going through could have been avoided if she just was better at her job, which she's not. And then like obviously Wonder was young, and I'm giving him the benefit of that, but holy shit. Flying out for an editing thing. So much for a remote job.
Later, after being fired on July 27th, on July 29th, Blair came to Texas to revoke a car in the middle of the night, which she claimed I breached contract, which we will get to in a moment as to how this was not the case. But first, I want to just take a moment that I hope this sheds light into just how far I was willing to go to ensure that these video deadlines were met. That I was willing to fly exhausted and tired and not on great terms with my boss to fly to another state just so I could meet a deadline. I sincerely cared about my job, and I feel it is just extremely wrong to paint me in a light as some lazy individual who just didn't care at all. It was extremely hurtful after showing the links I will go to just show that I am a good employee. I wish my computer still worked and that I hadn't deleted these files, because it just seems worse, because it makes it sound like I am being very anecdotal when it's not the case. My laptop literally just does not turn on anymore, and I didn't think I was ever going to need these videos in particular to prove a point online on the internet about my work ethic. As for the finalized video that I completed on the desktop after my laptop did not work, I don't have that either, because I have reset and rebuilt my computer I don't know how many times, and you can see photos of me right here and tweets about me talking about how many times I have taken a swing at trying to fix this computer. As for the inappropriate comment I made on a forum, I have never heard of this. Blair claims to have a strict policy on discipline, yet why didn't she or her staff ever reach out to me about this problem? Why does she not provide...
If it sounds like Blair has it as structured as she does, why didn't HR reach out? You know, if Blair is so above the board with everything, HR should have reached out as something that he said in private. I mean, HR probably should have reached out a bunch of times, but clearly they weren't. How do you have editorial managers, but then you don't have HR?
Evidence on this comment, and what forum? So I reached out to Oz and I found the answer, and the comment I made was supposed to be grounds for termination. I'd like to reiterate that means a total loss of income to a person. This was along the lines of the comment that I made. If I could be an animal for a day, I would be a furry, and my favorite food would be ass.
Okay, so like I have spent so much time researching Illuminati, right? That I know this video is very damning, but I'm watching it and I'm going, he's not adding anything new, because I feel like I've seen it all already. Hold on, let me go back again. Sorry.
Never heard of this. Blair claims to have a strict policy on discipline, yet why didn't she or her staff ever reach out to me about this problem? Why does she not provide evidence on this comment, and what forum? So I reached out to Oz and I found the answer, and the comment I made was supposed to be grounds for termination. I'd like to reiterate that means a total loss of income to a person. This was along the lines of the comment that I made. If I could be an animal for a day, I would be a furry, and my favorite food would be ass.
Okay. Well, I mean, in a workplace Slack, are you supposed to talk about how you like eating ass, right? But like, we're in Discord and we're YouTubers, and you're a YouTuber and you're a YouTuber. So are we really gonna be like, listen, buddy, if there's one thing we YouTubers don't do, it's eat ass.
You can't make this up, man. Total loss of income because I said as a joke, I said I was a furry.
Honestly, if he got fired for saying that he is a furry who eats ass, I feel like that would be grounds for wrongful termination. You should be able to sue for that. Like, my brother. This is a serious business that creates Reddit content and videos about how Panera bread isn't healthy.
I don't know. In regards to my pay on the surface, 50k a year sounds beyond generous for editing a channel. I'd agree. I was personally astounded. I moved my entire life to another state because of this number. I figured I could really make something of myself with this type of income. However, I'd like to go back where she mentions the benefits. Blair lists an array of many wonderful benefits that I could receive as an employee. I'd like you now to look at what I earn during each pay period here. Now, I'd like to reiterate, this is at face value. I'm more than willing to stand corrected if I'm wrong here with numbers. You can see here on my screen that the amount of money I made during each pay period was $1,434.24. I made this twice during my employment with Blair. If we do the math on that, we can divide this number by 2 to see how much I made on a weekly basis. $717.12. Say roughly there's 4.25 weeks in a month, $3,047.76 per month. Okay, well that leaves a big question. Where's the rest of the money? So I did some more math. Let's say that everything had gone according to plan and the house Blair built was done in August like it was intended to be. I believe the range for the rent was $1,500 at the time, so around $300-ish for utilities. Now throw in a car that I have to pay Blair for the next 2 years. $588 a month plus $100.
Bro. Oh my god. Shit. I need to fucking like work with just young people so they don't end up in this kind of situation. Like, guys, imagine if your boss was your landlord, right? That's miserable enough for most people, I think, right? But not only is your boss your landlord, your boss has their name on your car lease, right? And they co-signed the loan to buy your car. So they are partially responsible for that. Like that situation is just insane. Like, that is insane. I would never put myself in that situation, but this is for all of you. Don't. Mr. Beast does it. Yeah, okay, but Mr. Beast operates on a completely different scale. Like, we're talking peanuts to fucking Disney over here, okay?
$25 for insurance. Now let's add in, say, $100 a month in gas due to it being a car that relies on premium gas. So after all this is said and done, my take home before food...
If my boss was my landlord and owned my car, I wouldn't eat ass for risk of getting fired.
Clothes, leisure would look more like this every month. A grand total of roughly $434.76. However, given that the house wasn't built, this wasn't the case and I was making about $1,000 take home. Well, maybe that isn't so bad. I do in fact have a car, I have a house, and I have a job. However, the one scary thing when you put all that on a spectrum is they are all provided by one singular individual. Blair. She had a hand in every single aspect of my life, and at any moment she could take it away when she felt, which is exactly what happened. Where I could be wrong about the pay itself is where I received my final check at the end of the month for $1570.60. I was told this was my bi-weekly final pay, which makes sense, but when I signed a severance letter, I also received $1570. So this was either severance pay or this was the allocated amount I would have made via the LSA every month if that was how that operated. Even reading this aloud, I am still highly confused as to how this payment structure works, as it was never properly explained to me. But even if that were the case, it doesn't change that in order to keep a roof over my head, food on my table, and my dog's bowl and transportation, I had to be walking on eggshells 24/7 due to someone's unpredictable and erratic behavior. There is not, nor will there ever be, a price you can pay me to where I will put up with being a verbal punching bag. It will never happen as long as I live. So if I'm wrong, sure, I would have made some money. Probably net over $1,000 a month, which again isn't bad. But if my numbers are right, I'd be sitting at $717.12, give or take. Times that by 52 weeks in a year, roughly $37,290.24 a year, as I've stated, give or take. So I tried to dig a little deeper into this LSA Blair mentioned. Once more, I'd like to add that I am not entirely versed in legal speak, so I read through the LSA Blair provided in her video, and here is what I could personally gather. month, I was given a company allowance of $300. If I did not use this money, I would not be allocated these funds, which again, I'd like to note is stated to be entirely optional. If I purchased an item and submitted a receipt, I would be reimbursed this allowance, and if I bought something without the full allowance, I would be allocated, I believe, an additional $100. The smaller payments would appear on my paycheck within 30 days, but larger ones could take upwards of 3 months. But where I have a hard time understanding these numbers is if I use the monthly allowance of the $300, waited and received $300 on my paycheck, my total income would be $1,570.60 if the $1,434.23 was due to me being a new hire. But where I'm having a hard time understanding these numbers is if I use the monthly allowance of $300, waited and received the $300 on my paycheck, my total income would look a little different. We're gonna go off the number of $1,570.60 since the $1,434.23 I believe could be due to me being a new hire, but I am not entirely sure where this number comes from and why it varies between this paycheck right here. $1,570.60 plus $300, that comes out to $1,870.60. But in Blair's video, it is stated that I made somewhere near the high 1900s. Well, as it turns out, I was actually able to find a number in this ballpark. I was paid $1978.38. But if we zoom out, we can see that this was actually my gross pay, meaning again, from what I can understand, my take home in reality was $1,560 per paycheck. So from my understanding, this would mean in order to come close to obtaining my full paid amount, I would have to rely on the LSA, and at most, I would be reimbursed to a maximum of $1,870.60 if I use the maximum allowance every month, then waited in upwards of almost 3 months to see this reimbursement. The only reasoning I can seem to wrap my head around for this would be so the company could have on paper that I made a salary of $50,000 a year, when in actuality, this technically isn't the case. After doing these numbers and re-looking at them again, I'd like to make a correction to my already made correction.
This is fucking super math heavy right now, and it is 11:30. But okay, let me take a piss, use the toilet, and I'm gonna break that all down as best as I can. I don't think a service like this is great for employees. I don't think it's beneficial in their kind of price bracket, in their kind of industry. This is not the industry for that kind of thing that I think she is providing. It doesn't. It's just, it's weird. Let me. I will. Oh, I haven't set up the screen yet. Because it's cringe. I will be right back, folks. I know it says stream starting, but I will be right back. I need to take a piss. Was she planning to go public? Why would you fudge these numbers so much? That's what I was thinking. Maybe she wanted investors in the business. I'll be right back. All right, folks, I'm back. I'm back. All right. And yes, I have a new microphone with a physical mute button now. So, no, you can't hear me, P. I'm sorry. Okay, so, holy shit. We have 136 concurrent right now? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? I don't get those updates on my end until I check. But thank you. Okay, so a couple things. This LSA program sounds really nice on paper. It sounds like a really equitable business type thing, right? We're trying to be like really great for our employees, right? But because it's an optional business type thing, it sounds like it's a cutting cost measure, right? Because you could say on paper, oh, you make $50K a year, but we have this program, blah, 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 where it helps you make that much, right? Like, I'm not going to say I make $80K a year after 25% taxes. I'm just going to say I make $100K a year. Yeah, exactly. But with that LSA program, it sounds like a way to get, like, a tax benefit type thing, right? Which is, like, fine, right? But then the way it works is that the employees, if they don't take the LSA thing for the full amount every pay period, they make less and more money gets cut out on their end, you know? Like this there's just something like really weird about that, where I'm thinking about it as like a business thing, right? Like I don't think she thinks about it as like I'm equitable and I'm giving back to the people, right? I think that's how it's presented. I don't think that's what's happening on the back end, right? So like she gets to cut out $300 from a paycheck if somebody doesn't take advantage of that, right? And if it's confusing or you forget to get that reimbursement, then you don't get the full amount next time, right? It's interesting, right? Because in non-for-profits, for example, right, you get this weird kind of thing where you request money from the government, right? You get a grant from the government for this spending, and it'll repeat that year after year after year. But the thing is that you as a nonprofit have to spend that full amount or it doesn't count, and then you don't get that full amount next time, you know? If you don't use it, you lose it through LSA, and it's left up to the employee to spend it. That's kind of what it sounds like. Where it's like you as the employee need to keep using the LSA, and it's like on top of that, do you really want to be submitting all your fucking food receipts to your employer on top of everything else? I'm sure she could have gotten the small business loans that were dished out to Chick-fil-A, but there's something really not... I mean, obviously it doesn't sit right because Wonder's going over the numbers and they don't make sense, but it looks like, oh, here's a benefit for the employees, but really what it is like I get to skim a $300 off the top of the employee's check at the end of the month, and I can pay them less. And then, you know, Wonder's one guy. If I have 20, 30 employees across the United States for the LSA program, and only 3 of them actually cash in on it, I am saving thousands of dollars for a program that makes me sound good, you know? It's not like really a good benefits package. What would be better is like a good health insurance or a good life insurance or like a matching a 401k or Roth IRA type thing or anything like that. On paper, it appears as if you're struggling financially. I have strings attached to no money for you to chase. In reality, it subsidizes your payroll to offset the LSA costs. She's the perfect bread tuber. I'm putting some salt in my water because I need to hit my salt intake. It's a way to offer a benefit that employees have to jump through hoops they won't jump through to get reimbursed. Yeah. Diesel, what coffee do you think Illuminati drinks? Illuminati gets like the pink drink from Starbucks. One of those like really expensive Starbucks drinks. Is this why she has so many editors and writers? I think Wonder is wrong on the income part. He's getting 50K gross, but after taxes, it's 37K. I can't fault Blair on this. Yeah, I you know, this guy is just, he doesn't know what he's getting into. I think, you know, I'm not saying Blair's like trying to skim off the top or anything like that. Really, I think she's very shrewd about the business, and that the money, she's good at cutting costs, right? The reason you have so many employees, you have all these script writers. She drinks a Mana Potion coffee. No, she doesn't. Absolutely not, but you should drink Mana Potion coffee today. Use code D10 at checkout for 10% off of your order. Oh, where could I go to buy that coffee, Diesel? Perfect. I have a link right here. She probably drinks the quarter rings coffee. That would be funny. He was 19 when he got the deal, though. Yeah, he was like super. He was young. That was like, this is my first career type deal type thing, right? You know, like after taxes, you're gonna make less, right? It's just that weird program. That program's mad fucking strange. I wouldn't do it. I would just pay them more, right? I think that she didn't appropriately explain things to him, but maybe that was on purpose. I feel like she doesn't explain things well because she's bad at being a manager. That's what I think. I think there's like one or two ways of it. Either she's deliberately malicious with all these employees, or she's just bad at doing it. And I think it might be a little bit of both. The coffee's really good. Would love a stream vid about your tasting process. Someone else suggested in the comments somewhere. So on Mana Potion Tabletop, we just did a breakdown of how dice get made and how the expenses, you know. So we've like broken down that. I'll probably do the coffee at some point. That might be a stream though, I think. I did taste like 20 something coffees in order to pick the 3 that we used. So maybe that'll be a members thing on Diesel IRL. I don't know if I'll keep streaming here, but I mean, you know, I am enjoying this. Payroll thing could just be her drafting up legalese that nobody should have signed on to first without consulting a lawyer with the intent to inflate numbers. That's possible too. Like, there's so many different things that it could be. All of this stuff kind of just paints a picture that I don't have all the pieces, you know? Like, she just doesn't have all of her ducks in a row. Do a video following the process from farm to bagging. I'll have to see if I can do that. I am good with the guy who roasts the coffee. He's a absolute G, and he's a super cool guy. I gotta get him a gift soon. His name's John, but because obviously I can't roast it in my basement. It gets hot. Roasting coffee is hot, if you didn't notice. Anyway, that's the boom. That's the tabletop channel if you haven't checked it out before. Okay, holy shit. We're only 40 minutes into this. How long have I been streaming? 2 hours? Oh my god.
question. So for my LSA, I would be paid $300 per month, not per paycheck, so my number of $1870.60 isn't accurate. Well, yes, I could get paid that amount. The next paycheck would only be $1570.60 again, as a $300 reimbursement is limited to once per month. This would allocate to a total...
At the very least, having this program baked into your income is like... It just creates like an unnecessary complication. Like, this just adds extra bullshit on top. And clearly, Wonder doesn't understand it. And I assume more than just Wonder doesn't understand it. I think he was used to jobs saying you'll get 10 per hour, and she's saying you'll be taking home $50K, and the idea of taxes never crossed his mind. That sounds pretty possible. You ever think about it? Like, again, when you work with young people, right? You give them their first paycheck, and they're like, why is this taken out? And then you explain taxes, and they're like, well, I don't like that. Can I just say no? And then you're like, sorry, little Jimmy, you know, that's not how it works. It's just an extra step to buy your food. Yeah, exactly. Like, let's just add in an extra $300 a month. You get paid bi-weekly, so just split that and just add on that extra income, you know? Like, the having it as like a plan or whatever is really strange. Most companies either give their employees a corporate credit card or you file an expense report and they pay you back. This LSA is so overly complicated. The fact that it states you're automatically enrolled, you don't have to participate or use this benefit, feels very disingenuous. I know. It's just, again, I mean, I think we're all in agreement here where it's like an extra level of complication. The way, I mean, we at Mana Potion, the only two like full-time employees are my brother and I. Obviously, we don't make any money. We just spend money out of our fucking ass. But we have our the one editor who helps, and we pay her what we can, right? But what does LSA stand for, by the way? I don't know. But it's just like it's just so extra. Like, it's so extra. Like, guys, I hope over the course of this stream, if you've been watching for the last 2 hours, that I have communicated that I'm not like an idiot when it comes to business. Like the things we're talking about are things that I am like skilled in, right? That I at least have knowledge in. And the fact that I'm sitting here, lifestyle spending account, thank you. But the fact that I'm sitting here and I'm going, what? Should be pretty telling, you know? If I was Wonder, I would be confused as well, you know? Are you sure? Are you positive? Because I really want to add on to this and like give a breakdown. It's so fucking confusing. And I don't feel like an idiot very often. All right, I don't think I'm a genius. But I am really feeling like I have some like weird lapse in my judgment or something. Like, shit, bro.
Annual maximum of $3,600. I'd like to bring up once more that the reason I didn't complete tasks was not because of me, but because Blair never provided work until mid to late July. And when I worked, I went above and beyond to ensure it was completed. And again, I was fired within my deadline. I hope this adds some context that was missing from the video. But moving on to our next section, let's speak on legalities. They proceed as such. Blair touches on the subject of a BMW she purchased for me due to my old car dying and wanting to help a friend out. I'd like to clarify I did not ask Blair to do this. In fact, I insisted on our first call the exact opposite. I am not.
I'll have to call somebody I know to fucking watch this part of the video, because I have like workplace professionals who can like elaborate on this for me, because it's something. I'm missing something. I feel like I'm missing something.
not a luxurious person. I like nice things like cozy homes, but the most expensive car I have ever owned was a $5,000 Miata, and that was a surprise gift from my dad after my first car got stolen. I do not desire expensive things, as that just personally is not who I am. Also, as a person who does not like when people buy me things, I was extremely uncomfortable with someone making such a large payment towards a vehicle on my behalf. But in Blair's words, she had the money and insisted that I get the car. After a few more discussions, she eased me into the idea that this car
stuff is weird, guys. This car stuff is weird. This is, again, one of those, like, weird business things where I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah, why a BMW? Like, if you can afford a down payment on a nice car, get a beater, right?
good move and would really change my life. I never saw the paperwork on the car. I never did any of the work to obtain the car. The most I did was go into a call with Oz and Blair where I got to choose seat colors. I had no idea of the process or what I was really genuinely getting.
I know we can allegedly say she wanted him to be tied to her financially, but there's already so many threads, right? Like, what are the reasons you would buy a car like this? Right? She wants Wonder to reflect positively on her. I looked it up. LSAs are mostly intended for health and wellness, and the employer decides which expenses can get reimbursed and which don't. So, I understand what you think that Illuminati is a control freak, chat, right? What I'm arguing is, and humor me if you will, allegedly, yes, allegedly, what could be the reason outside of control, right? Because things are very rarely singularly faceted like that, right? Even if you're the most, like, schizophrenic psycho bitch out there, like Blair comes off as, right? She used the excuse, I bought it for him as a friend, but, like, if you did that for a friend, would you really take it back later? Yeah, which is, it gets me thinking, like, maybe she put it on as, like, a company car, right? Why would you buy a $69K car and sell it to him for $14K? I think she had a thing for him, and she told him she tied him down financially. Ego. See, I don't know if I want to chalk it up to just, like, some weird, like, internal self-satisfaction about Blair. Yeah, she took it back out of spite. Absolutely. Maybe she was trying to front. That's possible. You know, tax write-off, get in a lower tax bracket. Fucking, you know, this is a gift, really, but I'm going to say it's a company car type thing. Lower costs and expenses. Yeah. So it's a company deduction. Like, what else is with this BMW? Because okay, so here's something you should know, right? You know why people buy G-Wagons, right? If you've never heard this, now you get to know, right? Rich people buy G-Wagons because they're so heavy they count as commercial vehicles. So when you buy a G-Wagon, you can write it off as a commercial deduction because you could say you use it for business. And generally, nobody audits it. You know, you're more than likely going to pass your taxes just fine. And you've just written off a luxury vehicle as a commercial expense. So, but yeah, it's just like food for thought. It's no like confirmation of any one thing. It's just, you know, just stuff to think about.
Myself into, which I don't see how you could argue that I did. I was 21 at the time. I can't think of a single 21-year-old that I know that has gone out and filed paperwork for a $50,000 to $60,000 car. I did not know what I was doing. However, Blair would oftentimes tell me that she herself had enough money to retire at any given moment. Now, she was a very successful businesswoman, and from the surface, that did seem true. Blair even had a few BMWs of her own, as well as Oz at the times.
Pause. Pause. Blair owns multiple BMWs. She is one woman. What does a dog need it? It's a luxury vehicle. If you've seen the pictures of the BMW that were included in Blair's video, that's like a custom interior. What the fuck is this? Just a few? What's a few? What does this mean? What does this mean? Multiple BMW, like one, okay, but like multiple? Something is fishy here, right? Like, I'm not crazy. Fleet insurance discount. She's got a house in the Caymans too for her bank account. They combine to become Gundams. One for each mood. I can't get over that. I was That's insane. That's insane. I'm repeating myself. I'm sorry, but multiple BMWs. What the fuck? She is everything she claims to fight against. She is everything she claims to fight against. It is so insane. I make fun of Hassan, right? Quite a lot. I say that I'm going to get up and pull a Hassan, right, when I go take a piss, because he just leaves the chair while a video plays. But I just find it very funny that these people that are very, like, pro the worker and shit like that, like, oh, I own multiple BMWs, multiple houses. I go fuck off into the fucking, like, Bahamas all the time. I go fucking do all these cringe ass shit, right? And this, geez, fuck, dude. Oh my God. I need like a drink.
So I trusted my friends who seemed to have it all, and I trusted the process, which again, I found out was a very bad mistake. The car itself was delayed, I believe, by 2 weeks, so when it finally arrived, I was pretty happy. I felt like I was beginning like—
Oh my God, I'm fucking losing it, bro. I'm fucking losing it. What the fuck? Oh, no. No 19, 20-year-old needs a fucking BMW. That does not need to be there. Buy Mana Potion coffee so Diesel cannot get a BMW, and buy sensible things like that maid outfit for the OnlyFans.
life like my friends.
Oh, cool. I actually have a new functioning phone, so I can actually do fun video stuff.
However, things in the house were growing fairly grim. I was in therapy at the time and trying to do what I could to help out and also stay out of the way. I felt my brain start to shut down. I could barely function as it was. I would just drive out in my free time to this little trail. I guess you could just call it like a private spot, not really because it's in the public, but it was a little nice cliffside, and I would just hang out there because I didn't have any work at home and I just was not—
She let him drive it because it was her extra. Everybody that lives in a sad milk cul-de-sac gets a BMW that I pay for, and also you live in a house that I paid for, and you're all gonna work for me and my business.
wanted around. I explained my situation to my therapist. It was a pretty similar message I sent to my friend in private. I miss feeling independent.
We are probably watching the whole video. I don't know if I'm gonna finish it all. Usually my streams are around 2 to 3 hours. We'll see how I feel. I'm a bit buzzed right now, so I'm thinking she lent him like a 1997 Nissan sedan, but she gave him a car from the future.
Living rent-free for 6 months, which I did not sign up for, is making me feel like a burden and sick. I really feel like I'm losing touch with myself, and I'm not sure who I am at the moment.
God, I feel like trash. It sounded like a disassociation, just that. It sounded like you were out of it for a bit. Yeah, I've just been like this for a bit. The night I lost James just kind of hit me hard. I kind of just collapsed in the field and didn't really feel anything. I know you're really down from that. Well, when you say it like that, it sounds like a cult. And just like Oz and Blair have a lot of stress on their plate, I just feel like I'm in the way and I can't tell if they're talking about me when I'm out of the room. Well, wonder. They probably were. Blair talked about everybody when they weren't in the room. And Blair was telling Oz that if I don't change my location on Twitter, that commentary channels could point out our location from Twitter and raid the houses with police and confiscate her guns. You're telling me that Blair the bread tuber has guns? Has guns. She owns guns. Oh my god. Bitch, those who live in glass houses should not throw political stones. Okay, and then on top of that, right? On top of that, that commentary channels thing, this is because of her dumb bullshit that she did. She's the reason commentary channels don't like her, right? Because she went behind a friend's back and betrayed that friend and deleted her friend's videos. Because Blair used to dress up as SJW, Sarah Jessica Warren, a social justice warrior, and she used to portray herself as like a... Blair used to play a parody of Blair on a news channel back in the day. And she deleted those videos to cover her own ass, and you'll see in the video that I do. But for the reason, she's the reason. Okay? She's the reason commentary channels don't like her. This is bullshit. Commentary channels would not send anybody to swat you. Nicholas Diorio, Tommy C., those motherfuckers are going to swat you? Are you fucking kidding me? She is saying this as control, right? At least here, that's what it comes off as. But to say that, right? She's trying to poison the well so people who criticize her come off as bad people. I would never send you guys after somebody like that. If you ever do, you're a fucking idiot and you should go fuck off, right? If you're someone who does shit like that. I don't want somebody like that in my community. I just don't. Like... a Blairity, if you will. Yes, you played a Blairity. God, Greg, you... I can't fucking believe it. I can't fucking believe it. She has guns. Nick is pretty rotund, so he might roll in. Okay. And then on top of that, if she's a... Hold on. If she's a legal gun owner in Colorado, and she owns all these guns, when she gets swatted, they're not going to fucking take her guns away. What the fuck is she talking about? This, like, they won't confiscate her guns. It's within her rights as a citizen to own those guns. Wonder waits until the 44-minute mark to drop the Blair Guns bombshell. It's just like, you know, it's funny because it just paints her, like, she paints her character so... She paints a very specific picture of who she is as a person. For her to not be that person at all is so funny. Even, like, on one hand, it's like, oh, she's a two-timing bitch behind the scenes, right? but then even the most like simple things, you know, as in like a guns right issue, she's like the kind of like she's literally like, I think nobody should own guns on Twitter, and then she'll own the guns she wishes were taken away. Like she paints such a specific picture. For her to be a landlord while she's a bread tuber is comedy. For her to be a gun-owning landlord with multiple gas-powered vehicles, BMWs, which take premium gas. It's just funny that she's like doesn't even, she's not even consistent on her most basic of values. Oh my god, bro. I can't.
I told my therapist at this point that I hadn't
I am fully in the belief she hired someone to write her online persona, and in fact, her entire physical presence in Blair is just a figment of her imaginations. Based. I don't fucking understand this lady at all. I don't know. To think this is all because of a paper rip effect. Like, I'm not gonna hide who I am, you know. I think guns are cool. I also think workers' rights are based. You know, fucking, I love my LGBTQ bitches, bros, and non-binary hoes, you know. Out of fucking Christ. Like, it's not hard to be genuine about your political beliefs. You know, it's what people dislike about politics is how people are, like, social gamey and not genuine, right? That's what annoys a lot of people, right? On both sides. But, like, this is, like, really basic stuff. Like, is Blair any less of a lefty if she likes guns? I mean, maybe to her peers. Like, she's friends with Lance of the Serfs. That should probably tell me everything I need to know, huh?
felt real in a while, which anyone who has suffered with dissociation and dissociative episodes can all but relate to. I also reiterated how everything was starting to feel rather pointless, and I didn't know what I was that's so lame. I don't like to get emotional, but I didn't know what I was doing wrong. After hearing this, she made it urgently clear that I needed to leave the house immediately. What's
wrong with Lance? Lance is he's a really bad debater. He's like hilariously bad. Amazingly bad. Lance also did like a 3-4 hour live stream where he defended Blair, and then the click video came out. He like went really hard in defending her. And he just massive foot and mouth moment. Yeah, the Tim Pool thing. But the Tim Pool debate isn't even like the first time he's bungled a debate really bad. Gotta hit the sack. Have a great stream, Diesel. Thank you for sticking around so long. I understand this is mentally exhausting. Oh boy. Here we go, guys. It's gonna get heavy from here on out. Here we go.
Sorry, I need to calm down. In hindsight, I didn't realize how bad it was getting at the time. Yes, it had just never been that bad. Oh, It's so lame. She said whatever I needed to do, I just needed to go. So with no work, my only options were being in a home with someone who won't even speak to me, as I believe Oz had gone to visit his father at the time, or I could go visit my father and just spend some time with him. So I chose option 2. I explained the situation to my dad, and I ended up leaving to go see my father so I could spend the 4th of July with him and stay a while so I could mentally reset. I also did digital work, and this was not in violation of my employment, as I could work wherever I wanted via laptop. But before going, Blair had me sign her BMW contract she had been meaning to get.
This is an agreement. Hold on. Okay. Would this even be legally binding? She just, like, made this in Word. Okay? Would this even be legally binding? I think somebody had mentioned at some point in one of my streams or something that it wouldn't be legally binding because this is just a piece of paper that she wrote up. She's not a lawyer or nothing, none of that. But this agreement on the 29th day of June 2021 is to verify the purchase plan agreement between the following parties: Blair, blah, 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 owner, and a renter. What he says about going back to Texas and feeling like a failure really hit home. Nope. If the following conditions were satisfied, blah, 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 the 24 consecutive payments for a minimum vehicles registered to reside in El Paso County in Colorado during the duration of the rental period. So you can't leave the county. Fun fact, he's about to say this isn't legally binding in the video. And I should also mention, this isn't the first time Blair's done something like this, where she's drafted a contract herself and it wouldn't be legally binding in that regard, right? Wonder claims it isn't legal, but it's what she used to take the car. Yeah, and that's why it's like sitting in court now, right? They have to argue the legality of this paper. But this rent-to-own agreement, I've never seen a rent-to-own agreement that says you can't leave El Paso, like a specific county. I mean, I've only seen a couple, but usually you're not bound to a specific area, or at least not to a specific county. Usually it's like a state. But again, I haven't seen many. She wanted to keep him from leaving the county. Yeah, I know. That's like such a small area. Like you could leave the county that you are in like an hour or two, less than, you know? Like that's insane.
To me for a while. She was fully aware of my intent to visit my father and stay a while, especially given that, again, I worked remotely. You now know the—
You work remotely, but this is insane.
The events that led up to July 29th, where the car was repossessed. You know, the story of the deadlines, how I wasn't kept on payroll, how I flew to Colorado to make sure said deadlines occurred, etc., etc. We don't need to fully recap there. As Blair mentioned, she said I was legally bound to this car via contract. However, after I was fired and Colorado was set—
He isn't worried about the car, he just wants the stuff he had in the car back. Yeah. But honestly, at this rate, he should just take the car. Just because Blair's a bitch. I know it wouldn't be legally binding. I don't care. I don't want to see Blair stack any W's. She doesn't need any more W's. Or B's or M's. She's got multiple B's and MW's. This is reaching levels of gaslight gatekeep girl bossing I never thought possible.
Done, I had my father, who is an ex-police officer and the former contractor, as well as a lawyer friend of the family, look over and review this legally binding contract. They both agreed that this was in fact not a legally binding contract. I'd like to state that I am not a lawyer and I don't know how that fully works, but let's say for argument's sake the contract was legally binding. Blair claims I broke the contract by the following: no proof of insurance, cars to reside in El Paso County. Okay, well, here's my proof of insurance, and here's here is my official mailing address during this time. You can clearly see it states Colorado. Here again, you can also see that my mailing address has not changed after the repossession. This car was not residing in Texas, as I did not reside in Texas. I lived in Colorado. I'd now like to point to a conversation I had with Oz Media, because Blair and I were not on speaking terms at this time, which was something she herself suggested took place between us. July 28th, 2021, one day before the repossession, Oz and I had a phone call together where I stated I would not be moving back to Colorado. He agreed it was probably the best option for me, as he was still at this time sympathetic towards everything happening. Note again, the car did not reside in Texas, as I did not have a residence in Texas at this time. Upon hearing this, Blair informed Oz that she wanted me to pay something that is known as a depreciation value, which is essentially, it's like, okay, you can't pay for the car, so you're going to pay for
Would
the
y'all just leave her the fuck alone? Jesus. That better be ironic, or I'm about to rip you a fucking new one, bro. I swear to God, I'm gonna fucking rip you a new one. Back that statement up right now.
that the car lost while it was in your possession. I agreed. I didn't want further bad blood. I just wanted this whole situation to be done, as it had caused me enough stress as is. Oz gave me a set of options as to what I could do with the car, and I picked option 2, where it was agreed I would bring the car back to Colorado, gather my belongings, and I'd pay the value via regular payments, etc. However, when I asked to see everything my name was tied to legally with the car, which any person would do, I was met with a copy of the car contract. So I asked again to see the paperwork of the car. This was to ensure I was obtaining an accurate account of the car's value, so I could legally assure what I was paying for. I believe that any person in my position should have done this. It is the only right thing to do to make sure you legally know what you're paying. After this message, I never once got a response. Later in the early hours of July 29th, 2021, Blair flew down to obtain the BMW. Hours after I agreed to pay for the car's appreciation value under the condition that I was paying what was accurate and visible to me. I did not have the text itself, as currently the phone I had at the time suffered, I believe...
It's a Blair alt account, everybody. Calm down. Calm down. Blair's she's running defense for herself. She's got her editorial team on it, guys. In fact, I don't think Blair should be left alone, okay? You know what? Get your fucking head checked. Excuse me. Excuse me. If you want to defend the broad with multiple BMWs, fucking multiple houses and multiple businesses, go right the fuck ahead. But she ain't coming to you any day of the week and defending you. All right? Get the fuck out of here, dumbass bullshit. Yeah, it's probably Blair just checking out the stream. Well, maybe if Blair wasn't such a stuck-up bitch, she'd have more friends defending her. I wish nobody would leave her alone. I hate hearing so many people saying they've made their last video about her. She's going to keep grinding out videos, and in 6 weeks, she'll have her subs back. Exactly. Make sure the editors are spending their $300 on LSAs.
It was a corrupted UI. All I know is I had a Google Pixel, and after some time, I believe last year, I plugged in the phone, gave me a big old question mark when I charged it. So I looked it up and I was like, what does this mean? Essentially, it just meant, yeah, your phone's kind of fucked, buddy. So if anyone knows how to pull images from a UI corrupted phone, please reach out and contact me, as I will happily provide these texts if I'm able to do so. At roughly 3 a.m., Blair sent me a text stating that I had breached numerous contract violations and that she was in Texas to repossess the vehicle. It goes without saying I was asleep at this time, so obviously I did not see a message that was sent to me at 3 a.m. in the morning. Once I woke up and I saw the messages, I asked Blair for an explanation as to how I breached my contract.
Blair, yet again, in the middle of the night at 3 a.m., decides to go fuck over another one of her former friends. Not only does this bitch don't sleep, she spends every single waking hour of her life gaslight, girl keep, gate boss. I fucked it up, but sure.
to which I was ignored. However, Blair stated she would make arrangements for me to obtain my items. This never took place. I took to Twitter where I made a tweet regarding what had just happened, and I was immediately reminded by one of Blair's managers that I could not speak out on the matter, and I was threatened with...
Whoa, hold on here. Please be careful on Twitter also. You're under an NDA, and you can't say disparaging things about the company or associated channels without legal action being taken against you, and I don't want that to happen or be enforced. If I am correct, NDAs are very specific on what can and cannot be said. There is no blanket NDA that like prohibits you from speaking about a negative job experience. That is insane. What? There's no way. The NDA would have to be much more specific than can't say anything, you know, disparaging about the company. Like, there's no NDA that says you can't talk ill of the company. I've never seen that. I know YouTubers under NDA, and they're like really specific on what is and is not allowed to be talked about. Like, and all those Amazon boxes, I'm so curious.
NDA. If I had to explain the feeling, I felt helpless. Again, I just wanted to do the right thing and do it the way I was asked.
I don't even know if that NDA would be legally binding if it's that broad. I really don't know if it would. Yeah, NDAs don't work like that.
And now I wake up and all my belongings are gone. I cannot explain how weak that makes a person feel. It feels like just a massive, excuse me here, a massive fuck you for no reason. Blair puts in her drive that the car had bottles, a few wrappers, and some clothes. What she fails to show in her video is my skateboard, both my Sad Milk and Wonderstruck Guy play buttons, my $800 GoPro set, and a whole list of other items I was prohibited from obtaining, which I found out recently from Oz. These items were subsequently thrown in the trash after some time. I'd like to touch on the condition of the car as well. It looks bad, and truthfully, if I saw that, I would turn my head as well. I would think this is a madman who owned this car. But I'd like you to remain open-minded that I was basically living in this car due to not being able to stay in the same house as Blair, as my therapist recommended specifically that I do not do that. I did not have a home to go to, and I was on my dad's couch most of the time. As for the cracked windshield, that was due to a semi-truck pulling out in
I got that specific yet vague language on a sponsorship contract from an unnamed frequent sponsor company. Is it normal in that context, or just unusual because Wonder was an employee? It's unusual because it's unusual because of the generality of that person's statement. But generally, the NDAs regarding sponsors are very specific. So they're like, you can't talk about how much you made. You can't talk about the details of the contract, which discuss how much you made. And you can't discuss how much you made up until a specific period of time. That's usually what an NDA entails when it's a sponsor, especially a frequent one. That's very normal, and I don't usually discuss how much money I make from a sponsorship with other YouTubers or the public, because it's usually just not part of discussion. But I mean, YouTube sponsors can vary in price, and you can make a lot of money, and then most of the time you don't make a lot of money, but sometimes you make somewhere in the middle between not a lot and a lot of money. You know, it depends. I have a semi-NDA, which was part of my full and final release from being fired from the job. Yeah, I know somebody who worked for a YouTuber who is under NDA, and when he left, there was a specific set of rules that for a long period of time, he can't discuss certain details. And those details, I would agree, are reasonable to legally bind someone to not repeating. But they are very specific in what they are.
In front of me on the highway. There's a lot of people out there who have probably experienced it. Sometimes semi-trucks will get pebbles stuck in their flaps and they will fly and they will ding the windshield and it's a crack. It sucks, but it happens. There's no...
It states, I further confirm that I will refrain from making any statements, verbal or otherwise, that are derogatory or disparaging to the company.
way I myself could have pulled off this effect on this car. In regards to the glove box, I really don't know what happened. I went to get something out of the glove box and it just popped off. It's a small piece of plastic, and the BMW dealership in my town was more than happy to fix these issues when I visited them, which is a record Blair herself has. When I got the car, I was told it was insured via the BMW dealership, so I would have to have my own insurance, and then BMW...
They're like, Blair, welcome back again. Here to buy another BMW for one of these weirdos who's 20.
You have their own separate insurance. So if something happened with a car, I could go to the dealership, show the issues, and they would happily fix the issues for no charge at all. Which again, Blair has a record of me visiting the dealership due to the car blowing a flat due to A, low profile tires, and B, a pothole I didn't see due to nighttime and rain. They told me I could bring the car back whenever I please, and I intended to fix these issues before going back to Colorado, as returning it in such a condition would make no sense. After authorities were sent to my house the following morning, I explained the situation, and the officers relayed their official opinion that I should cut contact with Blair, to which I did. I sent her one last text stating I would be ceasing.
This whole is such a petty drama drawn way out of proportion. Sounds like you're desperate for content these days, which is sad. Because you were obnoxious before, but go off, sir. Oh, is that Blair? Is that Blair watching right now? Oh my god, please, honey. Please. I cover drama, you dumb bitch. Hello. Obnoxious. Oh, a petty drama. Oh yeah, all these workplace violations sure are petty. Oh, boo-hoo. I'm not going to let the millionaire YouTuber just get off scot-free. We're doing all this bullshit to workers. Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, you fucking dumb bootlicker. Get the fuck out of here. Or stick around. I mean, you know, I need something saucy to put in the highlights for when I milk this more, okay? But go off, sis. Go off. Petty drama. Yeah, it did start as a petty drama. Because Blair overreacted to a rip-torn paper effect on Twitter. Such a shame that serious allegations came to light afterwards. Right? I'm desperate for content. This is literally what I cover. That's so funny. It's always, you know, it's really funny, guys, right? Whenever I cover drama, right? Whenever I cover drama about a YouTuber, you always get the same things. You cover drama for views. You cover drama because you're desperate. You cover drama because you hate their success. You cover drama because you're a sad, angry person. It's always the same things over and over. Never an actual comment about what's going on or defense for the person that they are defending. It's always really vague generalities about how I'm desperate or vindictive or evil or money hungry. It's never anything elaborate or anything well thought out. It's always vague stuff. You know how many people I get that say shit like that because I covered a YouTuber they like? You know how much shit I got for talking shit about iDubbbz? I lost connections with people because I talked shit about iDubbbz because I felt it was the right thing to do. Okay, I covered Blair because I think she's a bitch, and honestly, some justice in some small way, maybe it'll be served by me doing this stream. You know, it's almost like I have morals and standards. It's crazy. It's almost like I choose who to cover for very specific reasons. But trust me, you ain't gonna get any defense. You ain't gonna get any defense in this comments, okay? In this chat, it's not gonna happen. Okay, everybody's gonna jump down your throat because everybody here is here to circle jerk about how much Blair is a bitch. And yeah, are there people who do drama because they are disingenuous motherfuckers? Absolutely, that is very common. Clearly, Diesel is jealous of her BMW. Right? It's like, if I didn't like what I do, I wouldn't cover it. I have my hands in other projects, too. You know, there are other things I enjoy. It's not just drama. So the dramas that I do talk about, I'd like to think that I actually have something to say about them. I'd hope that this stream hasn't just been me sitting here with my dick in my hand talking about how Blair's a bitch. You know, hopefully we've had deliberate, very educational conversations about the business, about how the LSA is confusing, about how you shouldn't edit on Filmora. You know, try to be a little bit more productive in the conversation, because that's what drama news should be. It shouldn't be like just dogging on someone. It should be at least making something of it. Diesel would know. He's a backstabber. Trust me, as a random person in a live chat, I know his darkest secrets. But yeah, I mean, I get tons of shit for covering drama. You ain't first, honey. You ain't first. Every time I talk about Ms. Kiff on Twitch, people literally say the worst shit about me, okay? Please don't have your dick in your hand when you're streaming. My hands are dick free. Where's the Diesel cul-de-sac?
Communication, and that she could reach me and make arrangements for my belongings via my father's number. Not one attempt was ever made. Legal demand letters were sent and signed off for. You can see the draft of such a demand
That's for the OnlyFans stream.
letter and what it looked like on official paper in my Google Drive. After months and months of trying and receiving no communication or update, we were told by someone who represented Blair to back off or they would go after us for harassment. I know this is scripted, but I really want to reiterate here that I felt small. I felt defeated. I had literally left my apartment for this. I lost my independence for this. My belongings, either tech related or just memorabilia, were and are still gone to this day. I didn't want to upload because I knew every time I did, I knew Blair was probably checking my social blade, laughing at me, as I had seen her do to every single former Sad Milk member for months. I had no way to prove to my friends why I had seemingly high hopes for the future, and in the course of a summer, I had almost no money to my name due to Blair's butterfly effect. None of the friends I had made would talk to me, and like OT and Click, rumors began to spread about me too. Admittedly on a smaller scale, but they were still about me nonetheless. I was fired. Blair had taken the car as well as my belongings. My life had been set back to square one.
Man, I think you know, Blair taking the play buttons is really shitty. If you ever meet somebody or get personal with a YouTuber, you know those things mean a lot. Even if they're like dumb bullshit from a company who doesn't care about you, to take that away is so fucking vile. And shitty, and I wish I could give Wonder his play buttons back, because it would suck. That's it. It would just suck.
Which leads me to my next and most painful section, my mental health, which was proudly put on display for the world to see for some reason. Before we begin, I'd like to not so much trauma dump to a bunch of viewers, but rather give you the full scale of where my mental health arises and such. I feel it is important to share this context not just for me, but truthfully because there are a lot of people out there who remain silent about these kinds of things, and I want...
If Blair goes after him legally, he needs to say something publicly. Wonder if you somehow see this. For the love of God, the second she serves you papers for court, you tweet about it, okay? I don't care if you're worried it'll make the situation worse, because the entire internet will fucking throw money. YouTubers will throw money at you, so you do not get fucked over in court. And then guess what? I guarantee you Blair's gonna back out, because she would not want to deal with that. Do you realize how bad that would look for her if she were to do that? If she were to knuckle down and do that? Oh boy, that would be bad.
Them to know they aren't alone. I'd also like to make two more notes. First, there's going to be a trigger warning, one involving self-harm, suicide, and child sexual. Another warning, this is probably going to be the section of the video where I don't know how to be very professional in this manner. I feel it is best that I just show you how raw this actually is, because trying to paint it in any other light just doesn't show the extent of how painful this actually is. Now, when I first saw Blair speaking upon my mental health, admittedly, I shut down. I was rightfully broken and disgusted that so many people could see the insight into my mental mental health, something very private and a lot of times met with shame. There were so many things I wanted to say when I saw that, so many nasty and vile words of venom I wanted to throw into the void due to this becoming public on Blair's own doing. But it's not Blair's story to tell as to how I got to this point, it's mine. So when I want to say 3 to 4 years old, I was assaulted by a family friend's son. This was someone who I trusted, someone who I looked up to as a kid. This occurred for months, and without going into explicit detail, my parents found out. I remember being a kid and just seeing the abhorrent look of terror and tears on my parents' face, not being able to understand why they were so upset. Over the next, I guess, year or so, court proceedings took place, and the teenager who had assaulted me went to juvenile detention. My parents never really explained well what happened to me, which I can't really blame them. I can't really imagine myself in their position trying to explain that to a 4-year-old. The family who we had once been very close with no longer spoke to us, which felt strange because I lived in the same neighborhood as these kids. So when my brother and I would pass them in, say, a grocery store or at the pool, it was always met with just like silence and stares. I didn't understand what truly had occurred or the extent of what had occurred. I just recall knowing that in my head this was my fault somehow. And to clarify, I don't believe this was anyone's fault that I felt this way. My parents were just doing the best they could, and the rest of us were just kids. There was literally no way for any kid around me to know what I was going through unless they themselves had gone through the same thing. Even I myself at the time didn't know what was happening. Why am I telling you this seemingly dark and unrelated set of information? Because I feel it's important to the story in its whole as to show the context of where this began. My mom suffers from chronic OCD. The brain can develop OCD due to an early childhood trauma. This is known as post-traumatic OCD, but at the same time, I was also predisposed due to my mother. OCD has many forms, and it's sometimes hard to understand if you aren't suffering from it yourself, but in my specific case, OCD worked as such. I knew I had something bad happen to me. However, I didn't have a way to get a direct answer as a child. I just knew my reality was filled with a lot of questions and no real way to kind of answer said questions. This is where my brain started to fill in the blanks, as I guess you could say. It started setting me up with situations where I did have control over my surroundings. This could include an intrusive thought regarding, oh, if you don't write a sentence 15 times correctly, your parents will leave you. And if I ignored such an intrusive thought, it didn't go away. It persisted over and over, causing me extreme stress until I did the action, therefore validating it and giving me an answer.
Man, I'm very tired of having to listen to poor young people explain their personal trauma to the internet because of drama. That really sucks. You know, I know quite personally, and that was bad. I can only imagine how difficult it is for Wonder to be sharing these things. It never needed to come to this type thing, but Blair had to throw that stone, thinking that she's the bigger person. And here's where we are yet again. Somebody has to bring up their stuff because of some disingenuous, rude, terrible person. It's awful to hear and terrible. And I'm not going to play it up like it's some fucking comedy bit. You know, I used to work with people in child abuse. And yeah, it's fucked. It's really fucked. Like, what are you going to say? Very interesting that he didn't get any child, there was no therapy after. I mean, Jesus. Because usually what would happen is, like, this whole court proceedings opened up, which he did mention. Social worker would have been brought in, generally. Social worker would have come in, and he would have been placed into program usually for stuff like that. But you know, maybe it depends on how over encumbered the system is, right? If you're in a large metropolitan area, or I'm just assuming that's the case, right? Usually social workers, they have like 1,000 cases to one case, right? So if you ever hear about kids falling through the cracks, usually it's stuff like that, right? The social workers can't get around to it. Somebody ends up, you know, dealing with this. Maybe if things were different, he could have gotten the help in advance, so that way he didn't have to struggle with those things in that way. But, you know, again, here we are. We didn't know he didn't have therapy, to be fair, but I guess it depends. Yeah, that's true. That's true. It depends on the state. Well, there's definitely a, like, child services system, because most of the laws designed around that actually come from animals. So, actually, the first child abuse prevention laws they were designed after the, what is it, the animal abuse laws. But I wonder what happened. Maybe it was civil court, honestly, because it sounds like the ages of the kids were young. But, yeah, we don't know if he had therapy. If I was a betting man, though, probably not. I'm guessing it was a metropolitan area where they just fell through the cracks, especially if it was a very busy area. Generally, they are. They've been getting cut in funding since the early 2000s for those services. I think he's from a smaller town. Resources might be sparse. Smaller towns actually have it better for doing that. But generally, it's like for every caseworker, they have like 200 cases, even in small towns. I don't think his parents wanted to face it. They just hoped it would go away. That's a fair assessment. I think I would agree with that assessment, especially if we're talking about suburbanite people. They want it to go away, usually, right? I mean, we've seen that. I know I have. Unless it's state mandated type stuff. I know there's a part where he says his parents thought his meds sucked.
Somehow in my head, it's very confusing, but it's just how it works. Eventually, it got to a point where I could barely function throughout my childhood. I feared death from a very early age. I feared that my loved ones would get harmed, that people would hate me, and that I secretly wanted to harm someone and I didn't know it. During an already hard time in my early teens where my parents were getting divorced, I went on to take something known as fluoxetine. You might also know this as Prozac. It's a very popular antidepressant. For years between each household, I would have either one parent encourage me to take my meds, or I'd have another parent encourage me not to do so. I remember just how irritable and awful I felt on said medicine, but I also was going through a very hard and confusing time in my life as a teenager in a new city who was also going through a divorce. Like, needless to say, it was excuse my French here, a shitstorm of mental whatever you want to call it. So when I was 16, I decided to quit cold turkey, which is a massive no-no. It was hell at first, and it was not fun by any means. But after a few years, I really started to notice my symptoms had become manageable. This isn't to say you should stop taking your meds by any means. I just couldn't afford my meds, and my father at the time didn't think they were in my best interest, so I just personally would try to combat most of these things myself. I really hate bringing this up, but it feels like a cop-out on my part, but it's the turn of events that ended up taking place as to why this ties in to where we are at. About halfway through the pandemic, I was working from home. It was during this time that Sad Milk fell apart, and I hopped onto the bandwagon of witch hunting my former colleagues and friends, something I am ashamed I ever even took place in to begin with. Oz and Blair lived together for many months, so they both had each other during this time. Particularly post-December, it would just be me by myself in a room alone. I saw my roommate, who, again, I mentioned is one of
Here's one tiny guess: he didn't vocalize his problems a lot as a kid because he saw that look of horror on his parents' face and didn't get why. Usually, most of the time, kids don't vocalize it because they don't have the vocabulary to vocalize it, which is why a social worker needs to be there to be able to read between the lines, right? And yes, social work agencies are always overworked. More so post-pandemic now, because a lot of them had their funding cut because they weren't very successful. But then also not having them also meant that a bunch of social services fell through the cracks too. So it's like a, you know, better the devil you do than the devil you don't. But my family's worked in that industry for a very long time. I've worked with my mother in that industry. I work part-time in that industry. So, you know, but usually kids don't like vocalize it most of the time. They have different disassociations or different signs. I had a lot of therapy as a child, and my parents actively encouraged me to vocalize. It's how I managed to get an ASD diagnosis and understand why I was different and how to talk. But yeah, no. Generally speaking, kids don't vocalize. That's much rarer. Or it's different behaviors, right? There's different stuff. It's all a big fucking book. I was a mandated reporter for a period of time, so shit like that.
Of my closest friends, but at the time he had a job as well, and it just was more or less short conversation of, hey, how's your day going? And that really was my social interaction for weeks at a time. Aside from that, I would just be in my room constantly editing. It was here in this environment that my OCD started creeping in slowly until it grew into a full-on sprint. At this time, Blair had already offered me the job, but I was still debating if I wanted to go to Colorado. So I sat on it and I thought really hard. Thought about my dog and how I'd always wanted to provide a home for him. Thought about the pain of leaving my loved ones and my friends of almost 10 years. But I also thought about my future for the first time in a very long time. Thought about how I could afford therapy, something I hadn't been able to do for a very long time. How I could really maybe make a name for myself on the platform, and how I could maybe just for once have full control over my life and save myself from the constant cycle I had been stuck in since I was a child. And so I agreed. This is a part where it's gonna really suck if you get uncomfortable really easily. I took the job. I went back on my meds. I said goodbye to my friends. I shared tears with people who had been family to me. I'm just gonna blur this out, man. I said goodbye to my dearest friends who I did everything with. I said goodbye to my home. I knew I was doing the right thing, and everyone with either open words of encouragement or painful goodbyes in private. It's fucking hard to read, man. They all held the same sentiment to me. They were proud of me. For the first time in my life, I felt I knew my purpose.
I will also say this to Wonder, because I guarantee that he probably still feels like he's not successful. You're young. I mean, we're probably around, a similar age. I might be a year or two older than you. Yeah, guys, I'm 25. I know I don't act it, yada, yada. I've been told that a million times. But success is not a straight road. It has never been a straight road for anybody. Anybody who thinks you go from point A to point B and now you're successful does not understand that it is not that way, all right? You will go through the moments like that. You will go through moments where you think, okay, I'm taking this step and things are changing for the better, and you will realize I have made a mistake and shit has gotten bad, right? And you'll go through those moments. It'll not be easy. It'll not be good. It'll be very difficult. I have been there. I have my own struggles. Struggles I am not sharing because I have to put up a front on stream. But I have them, and I get it, and I understand it in a way that a creator to creator could understand. But, it's not that way, right? It's not straight, right? And this field is very temperamental, right? One day, one time, I felt like I was on my way to being a celebrity. That all my problems were going to be solved, and that everything that I had wanted to achieve in my life, I would achieve before I turned 30. I thought all of those things. And for me, Wonder, the pandemic happened, and slowly things happened, right? And it got harder. And a lot of those things that I thought were coming my way slipped away, right? And as a result, I fell into it. I lost some important people in my life, went through death, experienced that on a very personal level, on a very painful level, the kind of death that if a parent were to die type thing, right? And now, 2-3 years later, I'm starting to finally grab a footing again. For a long time, about 3 years, I didn't talk to a soul, really. I didn't really have a friend group. And you can't put all of your baggage on one person. That's not fair. But I admire him putting his story out there, but it sucks that Blair tried to take that story from him and use it against him. And yeah, toxic people do use the story against others. I mean, to call back to Quiet, Orion used his story against Quiet you know? And that wasn't good. It was shitty. You know? People like that, they use the personal connection that you have to them, the things you share in confidence against you as a power play to try and get what they want. And that's wrong. Obviously. Anyone who could defend that is a piece of shit to the person who came earlier. I had said in a previous stream, there was no reason to ever bring Wonder's mental health struggles, you know, suicidal struggles into the discussion. Those never needed to be in this discussion. Not once. Blair could have walked away from this not having brought those up once, but she chose to. And this is the result of that. And it does not make Blair look any better.
I was more than a burden. I felt like I was someone who mattered. I felt more than my trauma or my past or my OCD. I felt like I was just me. Then upon moving, if you've watched the video up to this point, you already know everything that's taken place. So when Blair took the car, I knew I had nothing left but a few clothes on my back, and everyone would soon find out that the person they were so proud of just 2 months prior was back at home and broke. And for me, I couldn't really handle that. I had tried so hard to show every effort that I cared, that I wanted to do a good job, that I wanted...
And you know, for what it's worth, going out and being young and then failing is as good or as important as going out and being an immediate success, right? Obviously, that's not how things work. You don't become an immediate success, as I've explained, but if people are normal and they are growing and they understand that growth takes place, you leaving for 2 months and coming back realizing, oh shit, I've gotten fucked, there's been some fucky shit, you know, I can't imagine if those people love you and they care about you, there is no reason that they would insult you or make you feel bad or any of that. Your worth is not determined by your career success. Okay, that's not what it is. It's not what it is for me. It took me a while to realize that, but you know, it's going out, and even if you make those mistakes is important. The way that you fail is if you never go out and take those risks, right? And was it a crazy risk? Absolutely. You know, I just, speaking honestly to you, Wonder, even though I'm talking to a video right now, it was a crazy risk you took, and you should have read the signs, but now you've made those signs, and you can walk forward into the life of an adult knowing more than you knew before, right? Obviously, it sucks to have gone through that and have to deal with the baggage of it, but I'm not saying that, like, oh, this was a good experience and you should feel happy for it, right? But the way that I see it is that you don't succeed otherwise, right? You got to take those risks. You got to get some scars. You got to scrape your knees. Okay, you don't learn to ride a bike without falling a couple times, right? Especially when it comes to being an adult, there's no fucking manual for it.
To succeed, and it ended up with me having nothing. I truly was a failure now, and nobody could say anything else because I couldn't speak publicly or I'd be threatened with legal action. By this point, my mental health was in a full collapse. Everything was dark, and I felt I had nowhere to go, and that every exit just led to more pain. So while my dad was away, I sat at his kitchen counter, thinking, reviewing my options, whatever that even means, and I chose that I wanted to. So, as Blair showed,
Failure is only when there's no progression. If there's even a tiny amount of that, that's not failing. Yeah.
I started to look for a key to a... Now, I'm not religious by any means. I don't have anything against anyone who is, but sometimes things just work in really weird ways. I got a call from my therapist as I was in the closet looking for a key. I had entirely forgotten that we had scheduled an appointment that day. It wasn't really on my mind. Nothing was really on my mind. I just wanted to stop hurting. I answered and she asked me how my day was going, and I told her, oh, not much, I just want to end my life. And again, I don't mean to laugh, but she said, well, how about we just don't do that and talk? Which was just like, it was so crazy. It's just like, I can't even imagine. I mean, like, I guess they're a therapist, they deal with that, but I can't imagine what it's like. How's your Tuesday afternoon going? Oh, you know. But I listened and we did talk. I walked out into my dad's bedroom and I just cried on the phone for about an hour. And throughout it, I'll never forget what she told me. She said, you feared for the worst. You fought your whole life trying to avoid the worst possible outcome. And now the worst possible outcome has happened. And you're alive. You know, I'm still standing here, man. I personally had never thought of it like that. I truly didn't. So after our calls, I was still in a living hell, but the idea had more or less left my mind. And so yeah, I did send Blair that heated message because I was at the end of my rope. So when Blair claimed she sent authorities to my house for a wellness check, she didn't care about me. She put in her own Google Drive that I brought the mention of guns to the table and she was locking the cars away and was scared, leaving out that the weapon in reference was aimed towards me. I know I'm supposed to be
Blair is evil. She's evil, man. That's so fucked up, dude. And you know what? I'm gonna allow me to pull back to a more comedic time in this stream, everybody. Blair is worried about Wonder coming to her with guns. Is that the thing that I'm taking away from that, right? If that's what I'm taking away, Blair, it sounds like you have a whole cabinet. You know, you have a whole smorgasbord of defense opportunities at your disposal, and you're worried about him. Damn, bitch. Listen, you're the type to stand your ground, okay? Listen, that's all I'm saying. That's evil. Fuck you. and pure comedy. You know what, Blair? If you own all those guns, you should be practicing with them, right? You should know how to fire them. So why you worried? But god damn, bro. Shit works in mysterious ways. That is true. Shout out to that therapist, man. That therapist, I mean, in my very long-winded way, said the same thing, you know, but said it more simply. She can use the BMWs as a weapon. She can stack the BMWs on top of each other. You know, I bet you she springs for the bulletproof BMWs, guys. It's a tax write-off. Is Colorado a stand your ground state? Maybe. I don't know. Let's be real. Somehow Blair would have signed a contract that would have sold away the lives of the officers who came to respond to the shooting. She would have bought them a BMW. She would have been like, you got a BMW. You got a BMW. He's in another state with no car. Not like he could have flown the gun to Colorado. Well, she was treating it like she needed to be in a self-defense situation.
Professional here, but I believe that text alone only showed she cared about her narrative of herself being a victim. And by showing text with her therapist, she's trying to claim the Good Samaritan card, which is very contradictory given the tones of the perceived messages that I saw. Also, something I'd like to note is that I wasn't there when Blair called 911 to send authorities to my home, but depending on her wording, it could have gone very wrong. To tell authorities there is a mentally unwell man with a weapon, that can go so very bad.
Yep. Okay, so I don't know if you guys saw on Twitter, but there was a guy who was threatening to commit, and he was with his mom in his truck. The cops show up, and they literally unloaded 50 rounds into the car, and I shit you not, the guy survived. He survived. He got shot in the head, and he survived. Obviously, they're suing the police department, but yeah, Wonder's right. Not necessarily the best call to make, but it's rough. Here in New York, so this is a local thing, right? This is a local law. But here in New York, what happens now is when there's a wellness check called on someone who's mentally unwell, a officer goes out with like a trained mental health professional, right, in New York. Not every station does it, but this is a local thing. I worked as I think I was audio engineer on that project, but yeah. So I met with like the sheriffs and the local law enforcement and the local mental health officials and all that stuff, and so they would go out together to solve those problems, right? So that's like a change that's happened, and it's a change that I hope is happening in more places. Obviously, I don't know, but it's one of those things that can, like, if the cops are showing up to your house, it's probably like the worst day of your life. So this is something to help make that not as bad. So I'd hope more places are like that, and we don't have fucking John Wayne standoff where fucking 3 cops unload on a guy and then somehow miss every shot and don't kill him. If you ask Boogie, he would call them. Well, listen, Boogie should have brought a gun to his fight with Wings. Then he would have won. He should have had finger guns loaded into his boxing gloves.
So very fast. So yeah, after this long, very drawn out explanation of my mental health, yes, I did send Blair that heated message because I was indeed heated. It wasn't a bluff. I had nothing to gain from this. I was at the end of what I could handle as a person. So to share this sensitive moment with the world, I don't understand what the end goal is with it. Now we're on to a bit of a lighter topic, because anytime I think of my dog, it brings a massive smile to my face. I love this dog with all of my heart. As we start to near the end of this video, I believe we have only 2 subjects after this. I wanted to touch on the claims made about my dog James, and how I cared for this handsome individual. I love this guy, look at him. Blair for some reason brings up an entirely unrelated matter involving my dog James and I. She paints me to be a dismissive, uncaring father to a starving, aggressive, abused dog. This dog right here. This dog who's scared of fucking leaves. So allow me to shed some light. I adopted James back in 2019 from a small shelter in Central Texas. I remember seeing his cage and the information on it said class clown. So naturally, I had to say hello to this guy. Within the first 10 minutes of meeting James, I immediately knew that this guy was gonna be my best friend. He was sweet, he was gentle, he was social, but he's very shy. Another fact about James was he was the dog that the staff would use at the shelter to introduce other dogs to see if they were friendly or not, due to James' naturally calm nature. When I moved to Colorado, I did bring dog food. It was just about half a bag though. James's brand of dog food is also specific to a store in Texas known as HEB. So I had to find him a new specific kind of dog food, as he had a sensitive stomach and switching his dog food would result in messes. But upon arriving to Colorado, Oz and Blair wanted to see if James wanted to try Casper's brand, so we just switched over to that. He loved it, and Casper has been known in the past for making severe messes everywhere due to his very irritable stomach, as he is a special needs dog. As for his collar, James did have a collar, but it was old and starting to wear. I went to PetSmart on my 2nd day in Colorado and bought him a brand new dog tag alongside a red plaid collar, a collar which he still wears to this day. I also did not lock Casper in the room to keep James roaming the home. I would put Casper in a separate room sometimes so James could pee, as Casper would bark constantly at the bedroom door which James and I stayed in. Whenever James was out, Casper would gnaw on his ears, which is something Blair did not mention. James did bite Casper. He made Casper bleed. But what Blair left out is that since Casper was a puppy, he has had a bad habit of gnawing on other dogs' ears. This is due to him being around another dog named Percy who exhibits this kind of behavior. And you can see this dog exists on Casper's own YouTube channel. So one day Casper kept chewing and dragging on James, so naturally he snapped back. James only did this because Casper wouldn't stop attacking him. It wasn't the other way around. As for James getting out and pooping downstairs and me not helping clean it up, there's a lot of reasons for this and a lot of context left out. The night James got out and got lost, I made a mistake and forgot he was out there in the backyard. I was in between helping Oz with something downstairs and going back and forth, but James needed to pee, so I tried the multitask. After like 10 minutes, Oz suggested we go grab dinner real quick, and we left for like 2 hours. I personally messed up, and I take full accountability for it happening. I left James out in the backyard. But what pet owner hasn't made a mistake like this once or twice in their life? Sometimes someone forgets to close the door.
Hard part, I am using this stream to distract my dog and heart failure. Oh my god, I am so sorry for that. Big ups for you, Garnet. Hey man, this is a very serious drama video, I ain't gonna lie. Usually they're not always this bad, but this is a rough day. Does Casper have guns and a BMW? Casper's actually what we call an entrepreneur, ladies and gentlemen. He's a multifaceted dog. He runs a Fortune 500 company. Diesel, did you know you smell? I'm like, still not that bad. Could be worse, really. Thank you for reminding me. The Casper only has 3 of each. No, he's supposed to have 4. He has 1 gun and 1 BMW for each paw. He owns 4 businesses.
The gate or whatever, and it happens. It's a story as old as time. It doesn't mean you don't care about the dog, it just means an accident happened. What Blair again also doesn't mention is that the backyard had a large patio area that Casper would take naps in, and sometimes James when they all chilled out together. The backyard was also fenced in. Blair leaves out that the way James got out was because a fence wire broke loose, undoing some of the fencing along a post, allowing a small entryway into the neighborhood.
Remember to buy ball deodorant too. Well, when Manscaped comes a knocking, sure.
This not come undone, James would be sitting on the dog
Casper probably has a shell company in the Caymans. God, chat, you're on fire tonight, bro.
beds waiting, which again, James being outside is my fault, but the fence failing is just human error. Blair talks about putting James on the Nextdoor app, which despite my
Casper is the Wolf of Wall Street. Get the fuck out of here. That's fucking funny. That's like a peak dad joke.
my reservations against Blair, this was a good act. But again, what she leaves out is she didn't get a call about James. I did. After James had run away, I searched for hours well into the early morning hours looking for him. And when I couldn't find him, Oz gave me a sleeping bag. The very same sleeping bag you can see in this photo in the BMW. I slept outside in 40-degree weather just for the smallest chance that he would catch my scent. Like, I was grasping at straws here, hoping that I could just find my dog on top of everything else happening. And I believe somewhere between 7 to 9 a.m., somewhere in that time frame, I got a call on my phone that James had been found not far from the house. I immediately got up, exhausted as hell, and I went and I picked him up. If Blair got a message on the Nextdoor app, I don't know how when I was the one—
Casper's the secret mastermind behind this whole operation. He's framing Illuminati for it all.
who went and picked him up. So after bringing him back to the house, I brought him to my bedroom where I passed out. However, to my discovery, James had eaten something as dogs do when they get out, and he was shitting everywhere in my room. So I got up and I started cleaning. I put James outside the room while I cleaned it, and after I did, I brought him back in, and yet again, I fell asleep. I was beyond exhausted at this point. What I didn't know was that James had run downstairs when I put him out, and he everywhere downstairs as well. So when Blair claims I just let my dog use the restroom and did nothing to clean it up, I just didn't know he had used the bathroom downstairs. And at this point, I was already dead asleep. No, this wasn't malicious, and it was just a sincere accident, which seems hypocritical of Blair, who owns a special needs dog who suffered worse for way longer. Blair claims that I did not assist with a mess located in the lower level of your home, as well as a staircase leading to said lower level of the home. What was your experience with the situation as the owner of this home?
Like, no shade to you, and like, you know, of course, but like no one like recounts the situation properly, because you weren't sleeping. I'm surprised that you even made that mention. You were actually like very well awake and already cleaning the mess up when we had actually got upstairs. What had happened was
gonna need to go to BJ's for more allegedlys. Good thing they sell allegedlys at BJ's in bulk. I definitely need some of those. Allegedly. And yeah, you know Blair is the token Karen on their fucking Nextdoor. Absolutely.
woke up that morning, came out from the basement, and there
Oh, that's true. It was Oz's home. Yeah, but Blair likes to think it's hers.
was like, you know, a trail of dog mess is the best way to put it, kind of like just leading all over the downstairs.
Yet again, Casper was busy masterminding it all. He even shit downstairs.
stairs. It went up and down the stairs. And, you know, Blair and I, of course, we weren't happy to see that initially. But when we had gone upstairs, you were already cleaning up the mess. Blair had to leave the house, and that left you and I with cleaning it. Because you and I.
Blair is such a goofy dumbass that we're attributing what happened to the dog, okay? I just want to clarify that that is what's happening now, okay?
We were actively cleaning it up. We were both taking turns using the pet vacuum. I was covering the downstairs and you were covering the upstairs. It's not like you just slept through it either. You were actively cleaning.
I'd also like to add that I did mediate between Casper.
Blair likes to accuse people of things in the middle of the night or delete their videos. Weird how she waits for the middle of the night. You see, it's because she's actually the white woman version of a werewolf, where at night she turns into a girl boss and starts gatekeeping all over the place. The next day she'll wake up and she'll gaslight everyone. I've been in the bathtub. I got out. I was reading the chat, so I wasn't paying attention to where my knee was going when I lifted it to get dressed. I bashed into the sink, split it open. That's don't. That's too much electricity to put near the bath. What? Don't, be careful. According to the next story, you were walking your dog at 9:55 a.m. and I found poop on my lawn at 10 a.m. So I'll be taking you to court. She's a Karen vampire. You know how you guys like invite a vampire into your house? A Karen vampire invites herself into your house. And then instead of sucking blood, she sucks the vibe out of any room she's in.
And James. A lot of time when Casper and James would constantly be going at each other, usually not aggressively, they're just being dogs, I would calm them down using dog CBD oil. Yeah, you know, they were having a great time with that. So anytime they were getting rowdy, I'd bring them into my bedroom, give them dog CBD, and we would...
I don't know if it's the equivalent of human CBD, but if you guys take CBD at all, does it make you poop? It makes me poop. I'm just saying. It's like a diuretic for me.
Watch videos of this guy who raises hawks until they fell asleep. I would have James on one side, and I would have Casper on the other, and they would...
He's a Dracularan. Craig, you're trying.
Just be cozy, relaxing, so they could be introduced to one another. We took numerous naps together. We hung out all the time. There are so many times I mediated between this dog, so to say I tried to do nothing, it's just not true. As for saying James had no toys, James did have toys. It's just when he'd play with them, he'd annihilate them within an hour. And he still has toys to this day. My boyfriend and I just got him a snuffle mat last week. And while yes, this is extremely biased for me to...
No, guys, I swear to God, I'd take like a shit ton of CBD. Not like a normal amount, but I'd be like, I'm not calm enough. And so I'd take more. But then at like a certain level, it just makes me shit. Maybe it's a I'm not having 20 coffees every day, Eve. I may not be educated enough, but I'm always very skeptical when I hear about dog CBD. Yeah, I'm pretty skeptical of most CBD products. I don't think... There's a lot of them that are sold that are definitely not CBD, and they've just rebranded something that's not CBD.
To bring up because yes, this is my boyfriend. You can find a Twitter thread listed down below of their experience with James and I after living with me for 6 months. I'd like to add I did not ask them to write this, as honestly that'd be pretty messed up, especially given the circumstances. They took to Twitter via my phone after I went offline. But aside from that, here are some images of me and the big guy. Yep, he looks absolutely miserable, doesn't he? Alright, at last we have reached the last discussion of this video, and this is probably just gonna go by rather quickly. When I took to Twitter in my initial thread, I posted a photo that shows the disaster of a room. When Blair saw this, she had a pretty convincing switch around for this image. He claimed I went into a room that was being used for storage after they moved into their home, and that I was told to not go into this room ever, yet here I was clear as day posting a photo to Twitter of a clearly off-limits room that I used to embarrass Oz and Blair, and that shows my clear lack of respect towards others and their privacy.
This was a room that we told you we were using to move.
So,
and we
on top of that, I should say one of the main people that was spreading this around was Mango, and he is like a drama fiend, but he also personally knew the people involved.
let you know it was off limits to you. That photo alone shows your consistent lack of respect for Oz's and my boundaries.
She goes as far to even do an image breakdown analysis of the room itself to prove this image, which I found peculiar watching this for the first time, because if she took this much effort to analyze the image, I don't understand how she didn't notice that the bed on the bottom left was not purchased until 2022, a year after I left Colorado. How do I know this? Because I didn't take these photos. Oz did, and I held back out of respect for my friend. If you look here, you will see that I actually never set foot in that room. These are the living conditions of Oz Media's home after Blair moved back in. Conditions he was embarrassed by. Boxes, trash, cups of mold, all sent to me again 2 years after I left Colorado. And this is my proof that once more, I never set foot in that room, nor did I have malicious intent when I lived there. Blair embarrassed Oz, not me. In the video, I touch on an image I shared to Twitter involving the living conditions of your home while Blair was an active tenant. She claims these conditions were due to her being in the process of a move and that I took these images with intent to embarrass the both of you. Would you be, in your own words, willing to shed light on these claims?
This is tricky to talk about just because like that was like the condition of living with Blair. Like that's always how it has been, no matter how many times.
Yeah, so given stuff I know about Blair's personal, so everybody involved has been really nice to not talk about Blair's mental issues, and I'm not going to talk about those, but her living really messy does track with what I've heard behind the scenes. That's all I'm going to say right now for that, but it does track.
Times cleaning was attempted, it always ended up becoming that level of mess. There was no cleaning in that house. It was always a disaster. No matter how many times attempts were made, it would take less than a week or two for things to re-messify. I even remember on my 22nd birthday, I had asked, like, hey, can we please get like the kitchen and living room cleaned up so we actually have like a space to exist? And that was like my birthday present for that year, was cleaning the kitchen and the living room. Just because the house was always a mess. Yeah, some of it was mine as well, but the thing was there was never a home for it. Right now the house is actually house is pretty clean right now. I can show pictures of that, but there was no clean. It was always like that. It wasn't just one room, it was every room. And I remember when I was messaging you, there was just a level of frustration because it felt like no matter how often I would actually clean and do stuff, it just always like remessified. There was no cleaning. It just felt useless, and she would never help with cleaning. It was always me. I was always the one breaking down all 800 of her.
Blair is in her 30s, I think, early 30s. She's definitely too old to be living like this. That is for sure. And you can see that she buys a lot of garbage. She's got some Ulta, some Sephora. I bet you, man, I wonder if she does any of those like dumb, like I bought the clothes from China hauls. Not ASOS. What's the other one? I don't remember the other one. So we're going to get a Hoarders episode, so it's going to go in there and find all the BMW keys and guns.
Amazon boxes. I was always the one doing anything cleaning wise. It just felt like I was there to clean up her mess.
I'd also like to note that you didn't ask me to post those photos, and I, on my own accord, took to Twitter. So you can confirm that I never once was in there or took that photo. Well, I guess you can't.
Sheehan. Thank you, Moop.
Confirm that I wasn't in that room, but can you confirm that I was not the person who took...
Manny, y'all need to stop judging Blair. She's a girl boss, not a girl maid. Oh, shit.
This photo.
For starters, the mess that I took the photo of wasn't even the same mess that existed in that room when you lived there. It was a very different mess. Just with everything that happened, the mess, it did get cleaned up, then it remessified. So like that wasn't even the same mess. It was me who took that photo because I was trying to both, for my sanity, catalog what the house looked like before I started cleaning, as well as just for my sake, just like have proof that this was the case.
Which leads me to my final discussion. Oz and I used used to be fairly close before Colorado. After the events that took place, we had officially turned against each other, and I didn't understand why he and Blair did what they did, because for 2 years I believed it was both of their doing as to why I went through what I did. I never thought I would hear about Colorado and that what happened would ever be rectified. However, one morning as I was getting ready for work, I received this message from Oz Media in the early hours of 2:35 a.m. January 6, 2023. I was highly skeptical, which I made note of, but I listened, and as we began to talk once again, we started to connect the dots and find so much context that had been left out between us. I was still very much on edge with my trust, but over the last few months, Oz has made countless...
For what it's worth, commentary community called this fucking years ago on Blair. But, you know, we all gotta go through it to figure it out, right? I get it. I've been there.
Efforts to prove not only to me, but to every other former Sad Milk member that he truly was sorry for the role he played in anything that took place. It shows a tremendous amount of strength, and Oz will always have my respect as a person for what he has done. I don't blame him for his role. He was in an abusive situation and had every reason to fear Blair. I feared her too for a very long time. For over a year, I watched one of my best friends slowly wither and question everything in his work ethic for his beloved channel fade away. After everything came out, I now understand why this was the case. So to watch tears flow from Blair for 3 minutes after knowing what will always remain behind closed doors between those two, it personally sickens me. At the end of Blair's video, she has what appears to be a heartfelt cry regarding your friendship. This section is roughly 3 minutes. She goes into detail about you, Casper, better times, and involves hobbies, etc. Would you like to share your thoughts on what you felt or thought when you first saw this?
There's not really a nice way that I can actually say this. I've watched her build those tears up on multiple occasions, whether it's she forgot she had a prior engagement, so she built up tears and said, I have to take Casper to the vet and I'm very scared so I won't be able to make it, or for talking to other content creators that she's had issues with of welling up those tears for apologies, for talking with employees, for talking with
You just know they had a conversation about Nicholas Theorio, which is so funny. I've talked to Nick. He's a really nice, nerdy guy. But everybody is so deathly afraid of the dude. It's so funny.
Me or her roommates. It's something that I have watched her do on numerous occasions. If they were genuine, I mean, there's that, but I have a really hard time believing it with how many times I've actually seen her build those tears up. And considering when I did post my thread on Twitter and I did make the comments that I made, the tone that she had in messages was night and day. What I'm trying to say is that the tone that she had in the end of her video was not the tone that she had with me behind the scenes. The tone that she had with me behind the scenes was very much accusing. A few vague threats were thrown in there, which I don't want to go into detail.
When I talked to Cruel World Happy Mind, the same thing happened to her. Cruel World Happy Mind was threatened, vaguely threatened behind the scenes.
On because I just, for me personally, with how I see all of this, I don't want to make a response video. This might hopefully be where my response is within the confines of your response, just because I would like to keep this. I don't want to drag out Blair and I's personal life is the best way of putting it. I would rather try to keep that as private as I possibly can, because there's a lot of things I don't think is necessary to talk about.
I've seen and heard what this individual has put this man through, and it is simply unfair to have included this section in the video. I can only hope that from here on out, Oz can find the peace.
I can make some guesses at what happened behind closed doors, given what I have heard from my people. I won't say anything, but Blair, just know, I know, and you should be careful.
And passion for not only his work, but the life he so rightfully deserves. I'd like to say one more time, thank you for everything you made right, Oz. You are generally a really good guy. So, we've reached the end of this video, and if you made it through to the end, I appreciate—
How would either of these guys have time to get haircuts when they're so busy running their lives from this maniacal triangle? Illuminati, the maniacal triangle. That is a great name for her.
Your patience, as I'm aware this was probably very lengthy. I hope that what I was able to provide today brought some context and clarity for anyone who—
I can't just share everybody's personal details. Plus, it's much funnier if I say vague statements like that because I know that the people that I say it about will see it and then they're gonna go, "Oh no," and that's much more fun.
To know the full scope and both sides of the story that was presented online over the last few weeks. I'm not going to tell you how to view what I've said here. I'm not going to tell you how to view me. I'm not going to tell you how to view any of this story. That is not my place. That
For legal reasons, Diesel is saying be careful in GTA Online.
is entirely up to you to decide how you feel. Before I leave, I just want to say thank you to every single person who has been supportive and reached out to me with kind words and support over the last week. I'd like to personally thank my boyfriend who has helped me keep my head on straight for this entire ordeal, as I know this has also been extremely hard on them to deal with as well. So if you already can't...
Professionals have standards. That's right, some alpaca. I gotta have some kind of decorum. You know, I am a vulture of public drama, you know, as the Blair lovers have so gladly put it for me.
Tell I'm exhausted. It's 5:41 in the morning. I haven't been able to sleep in roughly a week. I just want to take some time to relax, take just a little bit of a break from content, and just spend time, I don't know, just doing any semblance of life. I want to spend time with my boyfriend, or go outside, or just anything that isn't this. I just want peace and to enjoy my life. So now I'm gonna go take a hot bath and pass the out, probably get some good sleep for the first time in a week.
All right. Yeah, I think that was a really good video. I think he addressed a lot. It was a little confusing at points, and I don't know if it was him and he just has like difficulty like explaining things really concisely, or what. But there was a lot there to parse through, and yeah, I don't think it was a bad video. I enjoyed it as a professional, I'd say. I think he addressed a lot, made Blair look really bad. You know, I'm a drama channel, and obviously me and Wonder run in different circles. But I would hope that you are successful in your shit, Wonder, and you do better and you find that success and joy, because shit, I know how it is, and if you grind for a while, I understand the pain. But holy shit, there was a lot. We had some laughs. We had some cries. I got emotional a little bit. I got a little teary-eyed, right? I need 8 more hours, Diesel. Keep going. Garnet. I don't have it in me. If you guys haven't, watch it's under the podcast tab on the channel. I do a little thing called Lore Dump, which I'm trying to get posted everywhere else, right? But more like an audio focus, videos, but basically we'd cover like drama, all right, or some kind of crazy person on the internet. So last time I covered the Edwin stuff, right? Got too real in the club. 24-hour stream, really stop. But if you haven't seen it, that's one I direct people to a lot. If you're looking for more of me talking, Fed opens in 8 hours. What am I supposed to do? Oh, Lord Dump, okay. But yeah, so you can check that out. It's a fun one. I enjoyed it quite a lot. I have a second episode of it coming out. We will do a live Lore Dump here on this YouTube channel. So if you guys aren't subscribed to Diesel IRL, do that, because we're going to do Darius here on YouTube in the future, and we're going to do Nikocado over on Twitch or here. I don't know. We're going to pick one. But yeah, if you haven't watched it, it's a funny one. Someone who draws goblin porn is on it. She is the co-host. She's my student in drama history. But I'm going to get out of here. I'm getting tired. I need to pee again from all the water I drank. But it was really good. Thank you all for stopping by. Fucking so many people. I'm not used to this. On Twitch, it's like 30, so it's crazy. But OnlyFans stream. No, not yet. Maybe in the future. But yeah, I also stream on Twitch too. So follow on Twitch as well. You can find that in the description down below. And hang out there too, because sometimes I'll cover it if it's live. But yeah, thank you guys for being here. I don't have a stream ending thing, so just assume that this is stream ending.